draft. And Abba, how are you feeling about both of these teams coming in?
I'm feeling pretty confident about this draft so far. It looks like we're trying to stop some of this menacing top laners with the Gwen and just some overall roamability with Rakan and Rel. Some champions see roam a lot. Nico as well. Let's
Like
see.
a solid focus as far as draft is going. A lot of focus towards jungle presence, towards supports. Hypnotic going for something that I think is an extremely safe lock in for B1. Maokai, very doable as support, very doable as jungle. It doesn't really give away much priority on what either team are looking for. And it just slots in really well overall. But hey, that's a good that's
Oh,
a good response from Planetary Collision. Hovering the J4 probably will get locked in. J4 even after the nerfs, like
I
still completely competent. So much strong, straightforward engage power.
I mean, like, if you're able to pin people down and like keep your Jinx safe in this case, which is also a pretty good AD carry right now, I believe. If she can just stay safe, hit people from afar with the rockets, or just really tunnel vision down some of these champions, that's all you need. Jarvan can be really powerful for that. Of course, Maokai and Tom Kench have some evadability from Cataclysm, but they're not necessarily going to be the targets here. It'd be more of the center or any other carry that Hypnotic Gaming is going to be running.
Yeah, I mean J4 also creates a lot of space, a lot of area for Jinx to kind of run rampant, especially with how strong Jinx has been in the last patch. Headed into this one, she received a bit of a nerf, right? The passive now only stacks up on champions. Like, yes, you will still get a single stack from towers, but it doesn't stack further beyond the like one for a structure
Oh
kill.
yeah,
So
I
that's
forgot
like
about
one
that.
thing to consider, but I feel like Jinx is still completely competent, completely strong. And it looks like initially they were Planetary was planning around
Oh,
having Jinx Melio, but they swap it to Sona. And I think that's potentially dangerous because Sona is just so naturally vulnerable, so super squishy. Like, yes, Senaton
yeah,
Kench wants to sit back a little bit, but Sona
yeah.
is super vulnerable to aggression.
It's super weird because like Jinx obviously really does benefit from this Enchanter play style where she can just do that. But Tom Kench Senna just has so much sustain and so much abuse power that's really hard to keep up with that. You saw they hovered that Soraka for a little bit, who could maybe try and help up with that. Just E for any that Tom Kench's engages, just to keep everyone away. But it
Mhm.
looks like they're trying to force them to use their mana for healing a little bit more on those shields and heals. We'll have to see if it works out for them. Uh, Tom Kench Senna can be a bit brutal sometimes, especially in high elo players' hands.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I I think the most like annoying thing about Senna TK is it kind of feels like okay, they're doing nothing, and then all of a sudden, like they're really relevant. Like Senna's damage is incredibly high. Tom Kench is unkillable. Tom Kench will either be able to have follow up CC or just keeps the Senna completely untouched, completely safe, even against something like a Jinx. So we are also in that second ban period. A lot of focus towards mid lane, a bit on top lane for both of these teams. Nothing too surprising though.
Yeah, nothing too surprising. Syndra's just pretty good at rounding out comps, and if someone specializes in that, pretty safe ban here as well. It's been a while since I've seen an Aatrox, but I've also seen them ban a decent amount whenever I've been casting, so that ban seems pretty popular. And it looks like Fiora, Renekton, maybe Planetary Collision's going for some sort of split push, some aggression to go with it.
Yeah, just to talk about the Aatrox pick just a little bit. I think anyone who's played top lane has had to suffer against Aatrox at least once at this point, and no one, I don't think any top laner I've ever encountered, talked to, has ever said, yes, I'm okay playing into Aatrox. It's pretty much just like a universal groan of, okay, well, now I have to play against Aatrox. I don't like it. I don't want to deal with it. So I think that's very understandable. But as you were saying,
Yeah.
yeah, Fiora, a very strong split pushing threat, also very capable in a 1v1 situation. Looks like Hypnotic's response is going to be Jax, which is definitely doable,
Yeah.
especially because there's that little bit of a mind game between both players about using riposte versus Counter Strike. But Hypnotic going for something that I think is actually kind of expected. It's a somewhat contested pick between both mid laners. Kali on the table, and that provides a lot of potential kill pressure on the Jinx.
Yeah, Akali is just so slippery. She's able to get into some of these high priority targets and just burst them out. She could even potentially get Fiora early on. She does take a little bit of gold to get going, which is a bit of a weak spot in Planetary Collision's formation here. A lot of their carries are pretty fragile if they're a little bit too exposed here, unless they start taking the runaway. But the Malzahar pick is looking potentially good here because Jinx does want to team fight, and this 4v4 or 5v5 composition could work out pretty well depending on how they want to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like both teams, it seems like they have some relatively straightforward ideas on how they want to execute. Planetary Collision, like you have this J4 that can go in, you have a Fiora that creates side lane pressure to at least draw one member away, and then you have Malzahar and Sona there to, pretty much punish Nakali for trying to jump on top of the Jinx, or, like you said earlier, to enable the Jinx with that more Enchanter focused support playstyle. Hypnotic, on the other hand, they do have some engage power, right? Like Maokai flash rooting someone can be devastating, especially if there's only one single carry on the enemy team. And obviously, Jax can be there to follow up. Technically, Tom Kench as well. And Akali is a threat in her own right. That being said, I also think that that's a pretty hard job to do just because of the threat of the Malzahar. Because if Jax has to answer Fiora in a side lane, then really you're thinking, okay, well, who can jump on top of the Jinx? Maokai
Yeah.
or Akali? Maokai you can kind of peel off, and Akali, as long as Malzahar has Nether Grasp available, it's going to feel incredibly frustrating to pitch.
Yeah, Tom Kench can try and jump in with his W, being there's plenty of other front line to help deal with things as well. But it is a bit tricky. There is one other thing I want to mention. Hypnotic Gaming has a lot of get out of jail free cards. Jax can jump out. Akali can just dash with her Shuriken. Tom Kench has that W I mentioned, and Maokai can go underneath, which does make J4's job a little bit harder, being so many people are evasive. He's pretty much stuck trying to hop onto the Senna with all these other beefy targets who can also do a decent amount of CC.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing that I think is also worth talking about for both these teams is the scaling on
Mhm.
how, like, let's say we get into that 35-40 minute game time. Like, yes, Jinx is incredibly strong, but I feel like as the game goes on, you're either relying on Jinx to be your sole teamfight carry and Fiora to create pressure. Meanwhile, on Hypnotic side, you have Jax who scales incredibly hard into late game in his own way, but you also have something like Senna TK, where Senna will just get infinite range, infinite AD. So,
Mhm.
like, the longer time goes on, Jinx might feel less relevant because Senna can just completely outrange her. So maybe that's the angle that Hypnotic are willing to play towards.
Yeah, they can certainly play around that. They can play to match some of these split pushes. They can try and play some of these team fights as well. Their composition's pretty flexible. They also have some good pick setups here, which is
Mhm.
pretty good into team fight compositions. More numbers generally gets you a win, and with a pick, you can at least make that 5v5 a 5v4, which certainly can put things into your favor, especially when you consider things with the range advantage. Planetary Collision does have a little bit of advantage. Malzahar's got some range on Akali, I believe, except for if she can dash in, but the spell shield can prevent that. And then Senna's the only real range champion from Hypnotic Gaming versus Sona and Jinx, who also
Yeah.
have a little bit of range.
Yeah. And I feel like the discussion that I've had with a lot of people around Senna TK as a bot lane is that in the ideal world, you are able to pressure the Senna TK
Mhm.
enough to make their scaling a bit slower. And with a champion like Jarvan, that's definitely possible. Especially when you have like, let's talk about like a level 6, right?
Mhm.
Jarvan will already be level 6 long before Jinx Sona are there, but after Jinx Sona get there, potentially you're looking at a situation where J4 can be incredibly effective, but he should also be effective against Senna TK earlier on because they're not a wildly mobile bot lane. Like, you
No.
can't do the whole combo before, like, okay, well, Tahm Kench will just jump out and then ult out. Like, now you have to be much more cognizant of how you push forward. But I feel like we've also talked about and it's and the reason we're talking about this is because it's so critical for both of these teams, the bot lane. The other thing that I want to talk about is that top lane because personally, I feel like Jax Fiora can be a skill matchup just
Hmm.
because which of them gets their stun off properly. If Jax because I've seen this mind game in the matchup before where Jax tries to hold Counter Strike for as long as possible, but Fiora wants to do the same thing with Riposte. And I think it's harder for Fiora to time that out because Jax can choose when to cancel Counter Strike.
Yeah, it does seem to be a bit of a skill matchup in my mind too. They both are relatively similar in styles of play, and like you said, Counter Strike can be countered a little bit earlier. Fiora's reaction time to be able to dash in and out for some of these pokes as well, and the wave management I think is also going to be kind of important here as well. Counter Strike doing that AOE versus Fiora's going to more single target, auto attack heavy. If she doesn't set things up for a gank, if she wants to do a 2v1, that can be a little bit more difficult. Uh, yeah, or it can be just hard for her to get those vital procs if Jax can just kind of hold his freeze, if that's what he wants to go for.
Mm. Yeah, well, Abba, this is where I'm just going to ask you to put your money where your mouth is. Who do you think might take this first game here?
I think it's going to be favoring Hypnotic Gaming. Uh, just overall, I like their composition a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same plate. I feel like it scales a bit better. It might be a little bit more flexible. But obviously, I think both of these teams, both of these rosters are incredibly skilled. So it's really anyone's game. But before we break into that first game and get it all started, we are going to a really quick break. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back soon.
Go.
All right, welcome everyone to game number 1 between Hypnotic Gaming and Planetary Collision. I believe it's Uranus. Once again, I am True to Bagel. Joined alongside me is Abbatrom Bone. And looks like here at level 1, little bit of cursory abilities being thrown out, but otherwise pretty standard stuff, nothing too surprising. Abba, you did point out 4 teleports across all solo laners for both of these teams, but is there anything else that stands out to you?
I will point out that the heal is swapped onto the support for PCE here.
Hmm.
Obviously, so Senna can get a little bit more benefit there. And then the Ghost, so that Jinx, Katsuma can get some of those extra auto attacks so they can stack their passive a little bit more. I think is a pretty important highlight here, as well as the grasp in both top laners. We're not going for a longer style of Conqueror. It's going to be short trades to help build up that split, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I do gotta say I like seeing the triple Dorans across all lanes for
Oh,
Hypnotic.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
obviously, like pretty much every single starting item got their own changes, their own buffs, so to speak. Um, so going those early Doran's items actually feels quite good. Top lane, little bit of a fight going on here, but King Coney does get stunned up. Although at the end of the day, actually has a better trait just because of those vitals procs.
Yeah, Vitals, and it went to the south as well. So during that retreat, they'll probably be able to get another trade for even more health. Good news for them.
Hmm. You can actually kind of see that Riddy's pathing got pinged out by the side of Planetary. King Coney, this is not exactly the side you want to be on, especially because you're not level 2 yet, but the Fiora hits level 2 just fine. Bot lane, you can see that she was nice and Hypnotic Viper, able to hit their early level 2, and they can pressure. This is a legitimately, like we were talking about short trades, right?
Yeah.
Abba, like they are constantly poking each other here.
Yeah, trying to duck in and out of the minion wave. I mean, it makes sense for like King Coney to try and do a lot of short pokes here.
Yeah,
Fiora has that Q that can dash in and out. It's a little bit more awkward for Cars to be doing that, but I think he might be doing it here just because he knows it's going to happen, so he might as well get
mid
something
lane
out of it.
flash. Yours sincerely does have to flash in response to this get out. Wait, wow, what is he doing?
Ooh.
He emoted.
He stopped the emote and it cost him his life.
What was that? he
None.
stood still and emoted in the face of Akali. I mean, like, okay, like part of me wants to say, well, okay, but he got 2 flashes out of it, but like, I think he could have just gotten out there. He just walks his way out.
I mean, live by the BM, die by the BM, I guess. Looks like we might be trying to get a nice gank set up here into the top side, being the jungle's cleared.
Now, Woolen is here, does land the EQ knockup. Cars does not get stunned up by the
Ooh.
riposte. Riddy here to help out the top laner. Looks like that's all she wrote. No summoners actually expended for that, so solid discipline from everyone all around. It does give King Coney a bit of a breathing room just because at that slight CS disadvantage.
Well,
Otherwise, not too much to be said about all this.
and the other thing is that it cost Rifty a little bit more because they have camps that are still up,
Yeah.
but Woolen doesn't. So those timers are still up there and is able to get that Scuttle Crab. He can potentially double Scuttle, provided there's no other roams. It looks like that's not going to be happening here, which is a good advantage on them.
Yeah, both top laners TP'd back into lane, and once again, they continue to duke it out, hit each other a little bit. But honestly, the Vitals procs do make everything like that much more even. Actually, you can see Ultimate Cards is incredibly about to die here. One more auto will do it, and yeah, absolutely it does. And those are some deeply unlucky Vitals procs for the Jax right there, and that's why you have to be careful against the Fiora.
Yeah, you have to be careful. You can manipulate them so that they're a little bit better.
Viper,
But
he's also wait, he just dies
What?
too. What is going on here?
these are like diamond plus points.
Oh,
Oh, no!
no!
That feels bad.
DC'd right at that very moment. That's why.
Oh, so unlucky.
Okay, I thought there was like some sort of weird handshake going on that like every lane like offers an int in some way, but never mind. That was just extreme unluckiness.
Yeah, that was just annoying. It always feels bad when you take those. On ranked, fine, whatever. But like in tournament setups like this, where they're trying to set up for playoffs, that just doesn't feel good when you get
Yeah,
the
yeah, like an unspoken code of honor. Yeah,
yeah.
because obviously you wouldn't want that done to yourself. Up,
Whoa.
Coney does hit level 6, lays down the grand challenge. Looks like
This
Ultimate Cars should be able to walk out. Does eat the riposte, gets a bit slowed, but ultimately he's okay. Things are relatively evenish in top lane, not counting this first blood gold, and without that grand challenge being available, King Coney probably playing it a bit safer.
Yeah, it looks like King Coney's trying to set up for a push here, despite being at half health, half mana, and their ultimate's down.
Yeah,
And Cars is
Riddy's
going to
waiting in
have
the
theirs.
rings.
Find that interesting. You might think he might try and set up for a freeze or something,
Mhm.
but I guess they do have that river vision. They still don't see Riddy though.
Yeah, still not aware. Trying to bait it out for the Maokai. There he goes with that twisted advance. Both flashes
Ooh.
being expended on the top laners, but final dash forward seals it for the Fiora. Still level 6. Should be able to survive with that enhanced movement speed, but Twisted Advance comes back up. King Coney trying to run for the hills. Use those both procs to get the movement speed.
And the
Fiora makes
healing
it out.
too.
Yeah,
I
all
think
that
that gets
additional
him the
healing, as you
dragon.
said, yeah.
They got ganked, managed to take a kill, which is impressive, and the solo dragon at 6 minutes and
Oh,
30
but here comes
seconds
the dive.
roughly.
They just don't want to let this go. Fiora is in incredible danger, but the Akali's eating a lot of turret shots. Final one
Almost.
doesn't do him in.
If that riposte would have got that vital proc, they might have actually been able to get that kill. Still,
Yeah, I
they
mean,
had to
that's the
send
thing.
this many resources this early to try and get
Yeah.
something. Of course, they're gonna get some plates, but that does not feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a catastrophic situation if you're a top lane, right? You've gone 2 deaths down in a what people would say is a bit of a carry versus carry matchup because Jackson Fiora can just be so devastating with a little bit of gold.
Hmm.
And as Jax in this situation, you know you're behind on itemization. Like you can kind of see that directly just by hitting tab and seeing where Fiora is. And with now that Fiora has this sheen looking probably towards
Hmm.
building a Divine Thunderer,
Oh,
it's that much harder for Jax to, have an easy time. Even with Scruff Ninja and Riddy committing to a dive in top lane, that's not too much you can rely on.
yeah. There's a potential for an Essence Reaver too. I know some more off-meta builds do this as well to try and
That's
help with
true.
the mana problem. Divine Thunder, based on the opponents they'll be facing, probably is a little bit higher of a priority.
Mhm.
But that is something to keep in mind here as well. They do have a nice, healthy CS lead. They are down a plate, which means they're not as far ahead as you might think, but it's still 600 gold when you look at it, which is about the 2 kills.
Yeah, and in top lane, like, this lane that I feel like for a lot of people is just defined by early leads.
Hmm.
That's extremely difficult for Ultimate Cars to be in. I do gotta say, both Woolian and now King Coney doing a very solid job of going into Riddy's jungle. And speaking of Riddy, Riddy is in a lot of danger. There's the Cataclysm. Tree is running for the hills. Gets the shield from Senna, but now Fiora does not want to commit for that dive. Ultimate Cars is here as well, but there is vision on that bush. Looks like the rest of Hypnotic, they're trying to collapse here. Oh my lord! Super Mega Death Rocket comes in. Katsuna says, okay, well, you're going to try to shield the tree. I'm just going to send a rocket its way. They
Yeah.
also get the kill on Ultimate Cars. So the collapse does not work out for the side of Hypnotic. And now they're 1k gold down, 9 minutes in, and it looks like they just have the run of the map.
Yeah, a lot of these lanes that we thought were going to be a little bit better here, right? Like, she was nice. We thought they were going to be a little bit stronger, have a little bit more lane presence here, but that's not the case. The Jinx is up 20 CS against their laning partner here, the Tom Kench. And they have kills too. They got 2 kills. It wasn't just the one where the disconnect happened.
No. There's more action here in the top lane. Ultimate Cars committing for another 1v1 versus King Coney, and now Woolian has arrived. The Jax goes down again. And now in the bot lane, there's the crescendo. She was nice. Goes down. One more rocket shot. The flash ultimate for the shield. Absolutely massive.
That's amazing. What a high play coming out of Viper there. And of course, the more auto attacks they'll be able to get into this wave, the more healing they'll be able to get because of the cooldown reduction. Still have to highlight, though, that Cars not looking so ultimate here, being 0-4 right now.
Oh dear, that is a double.
Ooh.
That's a devil's trap, and yeah, that forces out the flash from She Was Nice. Obviously, the Senna getting lower and lower. Katsuna, like, that's the other thing that I think a lot of people have forgotten about. Like, everyone talks about the passive buffs to Jinx, and those are definitely the highlight of why she's feeling a lot stronger. But the other part of that is that Super Mega Death Rocket
Yeah.
got a massive cooldown buff, and you just saw the effect right there. Like, it was only like what, a minute and a half ago
Yeah,
that the rocket
it's
was
so
sent towards the
long.
Maokai, and it's already up again.
It's so long
As
at
we're
an
talking,
early
it's
level.
already half off cooldown.
Yeah. Uh, and it does a little bit more damage too, I think. It always felt bad when you landed it. Even at max range, you didn't quite enough damage, so I kind of liked that. But one thing I wanted to highlight here, Rift Herald has been taken while all this chicanery has been going down. Coney helped them out here, which could help unlock some more split pushes or just get gold onto some of these carries.
Yeah, top lane, you know, for as much as a rough time as Ultimate Cars has been having so far, even without a Sheen, is still
Mhm.
competently trading damage back onto King Coney. It's just the
Mhm.
problem at this point is that Fiora, with all that healing that she gets access to through Vitals procs and then Grand Challenge as well, make it really hard for Jax to function. Kind of see it.
Well, and part of it is Jack's backed a little bit more recently here. There's about a 1,100 gold difference right now between the
Mhm.
two of them, which means King Coney here could be coming back with a mythic, and that number is going to change for the trade damage.
Oh! The blast plant using to pop Dim over the wall, and there's the aggression going straight onto Sona. They walk away from the dragon, trying to donate the kill over, but they're taking a little bit too long. Kill gets finalized for Riddy. Wolian running for the hills, but that doesn't matter. Scruff Ninja comes in, takes down the J4, but Jinx is getting excited. Jinx has one,
Oh,
Jinx has two. That's a quick double kill for
the
Katsuna, and it looked decent
it looked
for
so
Hypnotic, right?
decent.
Getting
Like
that cheeky pop over with the Sona.
it was great, and they had the lineup, and then of course She Was Nice had that amazing shield that helped, and they got a pretty nice ability. But Dim was able to stall things out with a massive crescendo, and of course this ended up with Katsuna getting a nice flash, getting the reset, and just getting all the damage she needed on those targets. They just took a little bit too much damage from that dragon, and the positioning and timing wasn't just quite right for them with this gold lead. HG has its what 5K gold right now at 13 minutes.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely devastating, especially when you consider where that gold is going, right? 4-0
Mhm.
on this Jinx means that her game gets accelerated, you know, in a massive sort of way. And you also have
Ooh.
top lane going really, really well for you, if you are Planetary, that is. With Fiora getting close to 2 plates now, doesn't look like it's going to quite make it there. But
Yeah,
yeah, still 2-1-3, almost a 20 CS lead at 13 minutes. You're
we,
very, very comfortable with
we're
how things are going mid and bot. And even then, yours sincerely, as he gets rooted up by Riddy here, the Malzahar is functioning just fine with,
yeah,
you know, its own lead in CS. Like, probably not in gold. Yeah, or actually, yeah, it's actually
yeah,
because of the, you know what, because of the plates
the plates
and
and
the Rift
everything.
Herald just now, Malzahar is actually leading the Akali in gold. So,
There's a couple things I want to highlight here is the wave clear ability that yours sincerely is going to have that really helps part of their game plan here and can make it harder for Ninja to roam. But we do have a 5 stacked Dark Seal onto an Akali here, which can
mhm.
take over games. These are squishy carries right now, so if they're not careful, this could be a nice comeback for them. They're going to have to be careful though.
Yeah, Scruff Ninja going in, committing for Dim. Sona gets incredibly low. Holly goes forward, gets that kill. We're on a rampage already. Willian re-engages, and there's the Nether Grass from the Malzahar to try to shut out that Akali, but they have no damage to finalize it. And now, Woylan, it does go down. You're sincerely exhausted up. Hypnotic Viper wants to get a few more licks in. They want to give the kill over, and they donate to Scruff Ninja, who now has that fully stacked up Dark Seal, as you mentioned, Abba. And in spite of the deficit, Hypnotic are fighting back in a huge way.
Yeah, they're realistically best out was playing around Scruff Ninja, which is why I highlighted that out. And then, bam, it happened right away. They did get some nice targets here. They didn't get any shutdowns that I'm aware of. But that being said, they played that absolutely beautifully. Now they're only down to a
Oh,
3K goal deficit. Oh, Cars just barely getting out there, playing to that Western Vitals, trying to hug that wall, make things a little bit more difficult for Coney. And came out with their life. Still going to cost them some CS unless they use that teleport.
yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of what I was referring to by how those incremental leads can just mean the world in top lane. And you can see King Coney, yeah, is slightly ahead on the itemization, right?
Mhm.
Has that fully completed Divine Sunder, and you compare the itemization for Ultimate Cars, and you think, okay, well, like, that's not terribly far behind, but Fiora, with this amount of gold, doing incredibly well for herself. Although eating that number of turret shots is not healthy.
Yeah, that's not going to help that much. Turret Shots knows where your vitals are. Oh, could
Yeah, I
potentially
mean, we've
re-engage
kind of
though.
just seen Cars eating a lot of pressure from Fiora at this point, like kind of barely trying to stay alive. But the Jack's in a whole lot of trouble here as Katsuna is walking forward. Now Woylan
Oh.
going in as well. There's
Oh,
the Cataclysm properly flashed out, avoids the damage, but here comes the Maokai. Multiple roots landed. Katsuna getting fully engaged on, but unfortunately she was just able to block it out. But Riddy was able to finalize it, still going forward, still being an absolute menace. Flash forward from yours sincerely to take out She Was Nice with the Nethergrass. And now it's the double tank combo of Hypnotic looking for something, trying to take out the mid laner. But here comes Dim. Might be able to walk out. No, it doesn't look like a Hypnotic Viper able to go forward. The smite also helps finalize it. And the TP came in from Cars as well. And the kill score has actually been equalized. Like,
yeah,
yes,
it's
Hypnotic is still
equalized.
down in objectives and towers, but the fights are going pretty well for them.
Yeah. One of the things about being down like this, being down 3 towers, is you're closer to your base, so it's easier for your team to regroup here. And that's exactly what we've been seeing out of PCE. Planetary's been able to capitalize on this and get to Sakali the gold that they need and get a lot of these targets. Kasuma stepped a little bit too far to try and get that last auto on She Was Nice, but Hypnotic Viper came in clutch, got that nice snack, kept her nice and safe, and denied the reset, which just trickled down into that fight being lost by HG.
Yeah, and as we see these completed items come in here, I do want to say you can see that Riddy's committing for that more early damage focused Maokai by having that demonic embrace, but you can also see that Hypnotic Viper kind of committing to being like incredibly tanky, going for the heart steal on Tahm Kench. So
Well,
that might be a bit of a pain to deal with. The only problem potentially is getting the heart steal stacking, considering like you're potentially looking at Malzahar, Jinx, and Sona as 3 of your targets, and that's kind of hard to get on top of.
yeah, that can be a little bit difficult to get on top of, but we've seen a lot of fights happen between these teams, so extra tankiness is probably going to be easier to get and needed for some of these fights as well. Another turret going down here.
Yeah, and that sets the turret score at 4-0 in
Mm-hmm.
the favor of Planetary, and that's you
And that
could
was
argue that there's standing goals in those outer turrets, but it's also just the case that Hypnotic has not found the opportunities to push forward. Like right now, they're taking in the dragon to kind of offset their disadvantage by
oh,
Superman Death Rocket coming in. Oh my goodness.
almost.
That's
Oh,
much closer than I think they were comfortable with.
yeah, 188. That is a little bit too close, and it's kind of late to try and stack dragons. They're already 2 behind, and it costs them a tier 2. Uh, I kind of liked this play. They at least traded some objective for it. They weren't just giving up a turret. They got something in response, and we did see HG use the second Rift Herald to get that tower as well into the mid lane. It does leave them to be a little bit exposed, so it's going to be a little bit harder for them to potentially get vision for any Baron challenges that they might want, which could just end the game if a Baron's taken. Now, a 20-minute Baron throw, definitely potentially on the menu here. You want to be careful with that. I've seen it happen a lot on a variety of ELOs.
I think that happened the last time we cast it together.
Yeah. I think it's happened like the last 2 or 3 times I've cast. They've been like, yeah, it's a 20-minute Baron. We can do it. Oh my
All
God,
right,
they're
well,
doing it. The caster's
speaking of
curse.
which, Yeah, you can see that Planetary committing for that 20-minute Baron, as you mentioned. It will get pinged out. Baron's at half health, still relatively healthy, but you can see Riddy is coming in. They're going to commit for it. Maokai goes in, and it gets stolen! Riddy able to get the Baron steal, and now the fight breaks out. Woylan does go forward, get that Cataclysm off, and now TP coming in from Scruff Ninja. Can he find the Jinx? Doesn't quite look like it, as the rest of Planetary is able to disengage. You can actually see Kinkoni coming in. Yours sincerely does end up killing the Senna. The Akali is looking for the kills. The Akali can't finalize any of them, and now the Tahm Kench is getting shredded down. In a horrible spot, and the Akali is now alone in a 1v3. What can she do? Scruff Ninja? Not a lot of damage to be had, and the Grand Challenge goes down. And in spite of stealing the Baron, Abba,
What
the
a
fight goes the way of Planetary.
what a wild turn of events here, right? Like they waited for the Baron so that the Baron Gaze would shred their resistances, which is exactly what I would expect them to do. And it works out pretty well. And they had some nice setups here as well. But we knew Katsuna was able to flash through that back end. Their flash was up, and that teleport is pretty well telling. With it being on the ward. And they were just able to stall things out and position things. Of course, they don't have the Baron right now, both the death timers. This does give them a nice reset to spend some of this gold that they have. And I do have to mention out, Yours Sincerely has 3,000 gold on them right now, which can really help in a lot of these fights. And 9 stacks of their Darkseal on their own over the 5 that Scruff Ninja has. Because they died, they lost half theirs.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I feel like is also worth talking about is, like, frequently people will talk about how, like, Malzahar is worth Nether Grasp, right? Like, you're just here to dissuade aggression or catch somebody out. Actually, speaking of catching someone out, Scruff Ninja is here looking for the Jinx. That's a whole lot of damage already, and there it is. Katsuna, unfortunately, you are all alone. That means Akali will get that kill. But speaking of which, fight breaking out here. Kinkoni goes forward, does not land a riposte on the stun. But there's the Malzahar. There's a whole ton of damage going on to Scruff Ninja. But now the Malzahar is in trouble. Scruff Ninja ends up dying to the burn. But here comes the re-engage from Woylan. And Kinkoni, this Fiora, is absolutely devastating, taking out member after member of Hypnotic. Double kill or the Fiora. Yours Sincerely might get traded back. Doesn't quite look like it. There's a stun, but Ultimate Cars, you've been having a rough time this entire time, bud, and you're gonna go down. That's the ace for Planetary Collision.
So, if the gold state was slightly different here,
yeah,
I think that Planetary's plan here would have worked well. This like sort of pick scenario where they got a high priority target worked beautifully for them. Unfortunately, Kinkoni is 6-1-5 with the Ravenous Hydra and that Divine Sunder. They're just going to be wreaking havoc and able to get a lot done.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, like, as you said, right, getting that kill onto Jinx was really, really nice, especially because that's already a shutdown in the favor of Scruff Ninja, but it takes way too long to kill anyone else, effectively. Like, Dim is really squishy, yeah, but we already saw with Yours Sincerely, right, that Malzahar passive on its own, able to deny a whole lot of damage, and you can also see a whole lot of health in the Malzahar's build, too, so it takes a while to burn that Malz down, and but like on the other side of it, there is damage in spades on the side of Planetary Collision. They're angling to start up this Dragon. Scruff Ninja going forward, getting a whole lot of damage down into Jinx before, but we didn't. He's not able to finalize the kill onto the Jinx. No assassination to be had here. Looks like the rest of Hypnotic trying to take that one tower. Not really quite sure they can get it done, as Kinkoni does show up, and yeah, we'll successfully defend it. And this is a catastrophic sort of situation that Hypnotic is finding themselves in, because as you said, right, the Akali's still very, very dangerous, still able to, kill a priority squishy target like a Jinx, but the rest of the team is just not there. Like, they cannot be even.
They're just a little bit too far behind.
Yeah, and this isn't to say that they're not skilled. Like, you can see, even with this deficit, Hypnotic is fighting really, really well. But the gold lead is just monumental.
Well, all this was going down with the dragon fight, and they couldn't get mid. Top was fully pushed too, so this whole wave is slowly crashing down for HG to be able to collect that gold here as well. But yeah, like you mentioned, we do kind of have to mention that they're playing this still pretty well. It's pretty hard to be 6-2 and only what 30, 40 CS behind. That's tricky.
Yeah, I mean, like, it kind of looks like Hypnotic doing what they can to defend now. It's deeply unfortunate for them to be in the spot where they are. Like, and you can even see that they can't really contest much of their own jungle's vision,
Mm-hmm.
as there's so many wards inside their blue and red side quadrants.
Yeah, it's just so hard for them to get the vision because HG is able to push up more, so the minions can provide deeper vision, which makes it easier for them to get more vision deeper in. Oh no, is
Not
Scruffins
where you
going to
want
die
to be.
here?
The top lane Nether Grasp actually being used on ultimate
Oh
cards.
my goodness!
Definitely going to burn down. Like, that is ticking out so low, and he's able to survive, I believe, by virtue of the Senna. So, and like, that's also a 4-level difference between Ultimate Cars and Yours Sincerely. Like, there is nothing really that Jax could be doing. But now, Yours Sincerely seems to be overextended. Looks like they're committing a lot of resources to get that shutdown. Yes, they do. Scruff Ninja ends up getting it, but there's the push in the bottom lane. You can see King Coney trying to push for the end. The rest of the team trying to delay the backs, but Dim has already gone down. Katsuna in a bit of trouble, as well as the engage is there. You can see King Coney being forced away, and this might be what Hypnotic was looking for. Double kill over to She Was Nice, and the entire team is just around the Baron.
Yeah, the play seemed interesting, right? They got one Nexus turret, but they weren't able to stall things out on HG's side, which just means they were picked off, which means it's safe enough for Cars to back and try and fight this out, which makes things just too dangerous for Coney. Not only are they getting this nice, juicy 500 bonus bounty from the Baron on top of its norm, but they got that 1,000 gold onto one of their carries from the shutdown into Scruff Ninja. This is very good news for Planetary. They're still down roughly 5,000 gold. It's been hovering around that much, although they did bounce back to it. So still got their work cut out for them, but a Baron buff will help things for sure. Push things out, especially if they can get some more of these objective bounties in some of the towers. Mid-tower, pretty low right now. And a cannon minion might just have the range to get it, like we just saw.
Yeah. I mean, that deficit that was, I believe close to 7K, 8K earlier on is now much lower. It's down to 4. And that, so as you're saying, that's still a lot of work that needs to be done. It's a whole lot of souls, but I don't think She Was Nice can really walk up safely for them. The other thing that we talked about before, right? Yours Sincerely lost all those Magi stacks. Scruff Ninja still has the Dark Seal in the inventory there, but you can kind of see like what Hypnotic needs to do in terms of these fights. Really, when the Fiora isn't there, they have a very strong shot of fighting evenly. But the moment King Coney has shown up to fights, it's kind of been like, okay, well, all bets are off.
Yeah. They do have TP up right now, so I think they really need to make use of that. Looks like they're just going to say, nah, I'm just going to take this tower and walk away.
Oh, wait, TP being committed from Yours Sincerely. They are pushing for this inhib. Doesn't look like they can kill the Jax. They will get the inhibitor, which is quite nice for them. But those Baron enhanced backs are still there. So the rest of Hypnotic are actually able to come in. But there's the Nethergrass. He was nice, gonna go down real quick. That Malzahar is so devious. Like, yes, it's a dot functionally, but that's essentially all burst damage. Like, I kind of feel like Hypnotic has to be willing to pay the QSS tax at this point.
Yeah.
Because of how terrifying Nethergrass is getting.
And it's just really hard to do because if you have to pay that tax, that puts your build further behind. I mean, yeah, you get some extra MR stats with it and the cleanse that comes with QSS, but still, it's like, I'm behind already in my build. This is going to make it harder for me to damage things out.
Yeah. Potential soul up for the side. Planetary collision. You can see that the rest of Hypnotic are kind of moving into this, but the Jinx has a lot of damage. Dragon's already half dead. Hypnotic Viper is here as well as ready. They go forward. There is no Smite Steal to be had. Woiling now engaging with a Cataclysm. Jinx still relatively untouched at the moment. Katsuna, they're going in. They're trying to find Dim. They're trying to find Katsuna. The Sona is down. Jinx running for the hills, trying to get out. Can she? Doesn't look like it. And there's a shuriken flip in for the kill for Scruff Ninja. Now, Ultimate Cars, as well as She Was Nice, trying to find the remaining two members. King Coney, as well as Woylan. Look at the supers, though. They are crashing into the base. The Hypnotic needs to get these kills. They need to go back and defend. But it looks like Woylan and King Coney want to lead them on a jolly chase. They get the J4. The Fiora is still there around a double supered up wave. Fiora walking into the Nexus, trying to just give the minions enough time as possible, lays down the grand challenge. Will she get the kill? Doesn't look like it, but she's so terrifying. The entirety of Hypnotic is trying to get away, but they won't. Ends up being that She Was Nice goes down. King Coney in a 1v3, able to get the kill. Now here in the mid lane, Hypnotic Viper does get a QSS off, but it doesn't matter against Yours Sincerely. And at the end of the day, the soul goes over to the side of Planetary Collision. The Nexus now fully exposed with no turrets remaining. And overall, even though you can like they objectively lost the fight, Planetary Collision is happy with how the map looks.
Honestly, I think HG played this pretty well. Of course, they got caught out. They got the soul.
Yeah.
Was that worth it? Nah, probably not. But when they just stuck together and forced them to keep yakety saxing their way down towards their own base, it stalled, which prevented them from pushing and capitalizing on the deaths of their other teammates, which I think was really well done here. Because they can't let them walk towards the base. It's pretty exposed right now, as you mentioned, which is just part of their macro. It's just worked so well for them.
Yeah, I mean, and taking a look at where that gold is. Oh, wait, there's a Nethergrass going straight onto Scruff Ninja. The Ninja is about to go down. There's that final little bit of damage. Riddy now trying to run his way out, but I don't think the Maokai can get away from this Abba. And the rest of Hypnotic, Cars, She Was Nice, and Hypnotic Viper have to contend the full 5-man squad here from Planetary Collision. I am dubious as to whether or not they can hold out.
With a man down,
final inhibitor
two
goes
mans down.
Coney goes forward, and the Fiora is on the TK. She Was Nice going to die in just a moment. Yeah, there it is. Ultimate Cars goes golden. Don't think the Jax can survive. Absolutely not. TK on the fountain. Will he survive? Yeah, looks like it, but the Nexus does go down, and that is game one. Favorite Planetary Collision.
That was an amazing game. PCE almost came back here from this matchup. Which is a start. They were at the end down to like a 2,000 gold difference until like the almost ace at the end, which still like they almost came back with that Akali play, which will make this block very interesting between everyone.
Yeah, and you can see, right, that Scruff Ninja had some very competent damage from Hypnotic, and even Ultimate Cars doing a decent amount in relation to the rest of the team. But the disadvantages that happen early just stacked up so much across all three lanes. The exception obviously being Scruff Ninja's Akali pretty much always being a threat. But when you have a Fiora, a Malzahar, who are just able to TP where they please, and devastate fights when they join them, it's really, really difficult, especially when a lot of focus gets laid onto the Jinx.
Yeah, exactly. Like, obviously, Jinx got picked out there, but it was super hard for them, partially because of the range differences once those fights started. Once they were able to engage cleanly, it was still a little bit difficult for them because of the gold deficits. A lot of that also comes back to that top lane matchup, too, where Coney was just able to take things away on their own for the most part, punish some of that extra aggression that their laning opponent had, and capitalized on that. And then we saw the jungle start to go from there, and they were able to just kind of snowball that and get a lot more pressure, that's Fiora. That's just how she works.
Yeah, that's just how game one breaks down. But Abba, after seeing this game one, I'm very excited for the other two games that we have ahead of us, since this is a block of three. But that being said, I hope that everyone watching has enjoyed it so far. We're going to go to a little bit of a break, but we'll be back soon. Hello, welcome back everyone to Hypnotic Gaming versus Planetary Collision Esports, right? Or no, yeah, Planetary Collision Esports Uranus. That's what the it's a mouthful. I'll be honest about that. That
Yeah.
being said, I'm True to Bagel. Casting with me tonight as our color caster is Abbatrom. We had a absolute banger for game number one. Hypnotic. They were at a deficit for I'd say most of the game, but they had I'd say very very strong team fighting as well. And Uranus, unfortunately for Hypnotic, were able to just completely own the map at a certain point. They did incredibly well for themselves. But we are in the pick ban for game number two. Not too much that's different, but you can see Hypnotic taking off the Jinx in that first phase. Abba, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It looks like we're in for another exciting matchup here between the two teams. And it looks like the replacement for that last spot lane is going to be a Zaya to stop any potential dives. She has a little bit of a weaker laning phase, so I'm curious to see how they're going to try and punish it, or if they're going to go for the classic Zaya versus Kai'Sa lane. Oh my gosh, did they just beat me to the
It's hovered.
punch?
Yeah, it's hovered. I think they're gonna lock it, right? Like as far as I can tell, there is a fair bit of camaraderie between these teams and between these players.
Hmm.
So it partially feels like I'm not saying that they're not trying for the record. They definitely are. But like for instance, Malzahar emoting, like
Yeah.
for the first blood, there's definitely some friendly camaraderie between both these teams. Looks like we're gonna have some fairly different compositions though. You can see Uranus obviously with the Kaisa. The Maokai was on Hypnotic's side for game one. Game two here, they won't have access to that tool, so to speak.
Hmm.
Wonder if they just swap jungles. J4 is still on the table.
I mean, both junglers provided a lot of utility for each team. Of course, the clear speed was not favorable for Maokai versus the J4, but
Ooh,
that being said,
okay,
it's on the table.
Belveth getting locked in for Hypnotic. I believe she ate a few nerfs recently. I can't quite recall exactly what they were, but I
Yeah,
think Belveth is still fully
her
competent.
E, the damage reduction, I thought got nerfed on that,
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
which is a big yikes for her. That was really good on her. Not being there's going to be a
I mean,
little bit more
yeah, I
punishing.
think it was something like 30 flat before the patch
Hmm.
came in. So
Hmm.
that needs to scale up as you rank the ability up. Looks like the both teams are gonna round out the draft with their support lock-ins. Normally you
Yep.
see Kaisa Nautilus, but Hypnotic was like, "No, we're gonna take this away from you." Uranus says, "Fine, we'll just go Braum." Braum a very straightforward support.
Yeah.
Um, there's really nothing that you can say bad about what Braum does.
And I think his shield stops the Nautilus hook pull in if he blocks it as well, which is pretty good news for Uranus. And if they can get that stack up, that's an extra stack for Kaisa with that stun.
Mhm. Yeah. So overall I think that makes a lot of sense. Braum can still be a very defensive presence for Kaisa. Not
Mhm.
quite the same in terms of enabling plasma stacks. Critically though, Hypnotic, they say, okay, we don't want to play against the Fiora anymore.
Yeah, I was wondering when that ban was going to be happening.
Yeah. I mean, it completely controlled the top lane after getting what just really just two kills in the pocket. So I think that makes a whole lot of sense. Hypnotic says, okay, well, we don't want to play against it anymore. I wonder though if they're still going to ban the Aatrox since that was banned previously. Yeah,
Yeah,
last game they banned Syndra Aatrox. This time around, Syndra's banned, but by Uranus this time. So I wonder if they pinch that top lane pool. Nope.
ooh, yeah. I was potentially wondering if they're going to go for a mid lane because that's who their strongest performer was and helped keep them in the game the most. But that is three bans to try and help their mid laner out. That being said, Pantheon can go to the mid lane, and then Orion and Sidra are certainly mid laners. So there's already two bans there.
Yeah, I think it like does that open up the possibility that Aatrox gets locked in? Uranus is on red side, so they have the comfort
Yeah.
comfort to just counterpick top lane, like no matter what. So
Hmm.
Hypnotic, they are in a bit of a pickle
Ooh.
here. They're hovering the Aatrox. They do lock it in. Curious to see what Uranus's response is going to be, but Hypnotic, they have one more or one more pick on the table, rather. They are being hovered. I'd be pretty surprised.
Are they gonna? Man, I wonder who they would want to take versus Aatrox. Are they going to take like an Olaf or something, a little bit more aggressive, ignore some of that CC?
It's definitely a possibility. Just because like like I can't like say this enough. It's just devastating to play against Aatrox. Like even if you're having an even lane, it's just really really annoying because you have to stay on your toes.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I'm genuinely curious what Uranus is going to go for. As you said, maybe a bit more of a CC oriented pick, something that can kind of sustain being in a lane that has a lot of aggression.
Yeah. I don't think it's a great matchup for like someone like
Oh,
Ornn. Maybe
and
Jace?
it's definitely something that can stay further away from Aatrox, kind of choose. Especially if Aatrox goes in, you can just switch to
Interesting.
Hammer form, smack him away. That
Very
looks like what they're going to commit
interesting.
for. Yeah.
Well, I kind of like this pick for a couple reasons. Jace's early game is pretty good, to say the least. And Kaisa and Corky kind of want some gold to scale up. And then they've got some nice, chunky boys, Maokai and Braum, to help keep some of these carries nice and healthy. We also know Coney is pretty proficient in the top lane, so them on Jace. They certainly have the chops for it. If you can play Fiora, someone who's pretty mechanically difficult, I could see them being able to play Jace.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a very reasonable response. Just because like you have range, you can really opt into what you want to do. Um, that being said, like this is a very different draft, I'd say, for both of these teams. Um, Uranus has potential to have like a very very annoying poke composition.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously you have Corby, you have Jace. Kaisa technically still has access to that more AP oriented, just like
Yeah.
constantly Void Seeker. Um,
And her build's kind of gone into like a weird hybrid state, if I
yeah,
recall, where she can kind of get all three abilities leveled up. Her mobility and that poke is going to be pretty important. Cassiopeia can kind of do some of that dot damage we were seeing before, but doesn't have quite the range that Malzahar has. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting to ponder that. This whole like very poke oriented composition versus what Hypnotic have, which is not to say they don't have range, right? Like
Yeah.
like they have more range champions this time around than they did in the previous game. But you obviously just don't have that over 1,000 unit poke
Hmm.
that Uranus have their access to. You also don't have a profoundly strong front line that can tank up a lot of poke damage. So Hypnotic is, I'd say, going to be fairly challenged to find their avenue to start fights, because if Uranus is able to space things out properly, it's really, really annoying to deal with a coordinated poke composition.
It is abysmal to deal with that. As someone who played Caitlyn a lot, I really love playing poke compositions. And it can be really annoying for teams to do that, especially if you show up first, get the vision control. You can just force them out of a lot of these team fights. Uh, Zaya doesn't have the longest range with her abilities, and it can be difficult. Though, that being said, Hypnotic has some nice defensive abilities to go with it. They have some shields. They got definitely the mobility to go with it. Belvath has all those dashes. Aatrox has it, and Cassiopeia has some nice movement speed, as well as the miasma to prevent some spacing from coming in to play there. So they do have ways around it. That does make things pretty skill reliant, though. That's not like a necessarily hook and sink setup where it's just going to be super reliable. You can only dodge so many skill shots.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that I'm most invested in headed into this game is seeing the setup around objectives because of
Hmm.
how critical that is for both of these teams. Like, if you are the side of Planetary Collision, like if you have the proper setup around objectives, you can kind of just control. You know where they're going to enter in from, and you can poke them out until you choose to have things on your own terms. On the other side of it, if you are Hypnotic, right, and you're the one who has the vision control, yes, there is that potential for poke, but it also makes things a bit more difficult, and they might have to face check into you, and that might be your opportunity to have like a controlled fight around confined spaces. That being said, Hypnotic does only have like one direct engage tool, which
Hmm.
is just the Nautilus, like which can be devastating, right? You know, flash depth charge can completely like break up a poke oriented composition. But when you only have that one direct avenue in,
Hmm.
the entirety of the enemy team is also going to be looking out for it.
Yeah, I mean, if they get a nice flash depth charge under the Corki as he's dashing through, I mean, that can get a lot of people.
Hmm.
And face jacking a team that has a Nautilus can also be very lethal for teams. But they really do need that vision, and part of that vision is going to be setting up for waves and being able to clear it, which could be difficult into some of these teams. Uranus obviously has Ithacan Rain, and Braum isn't going to be the fastest to help with that as well. But Corki and Jace certainly can clear waves pretty fast. Cassiopeia can once she gets some of that mana hunger out of control. And Natrox has some pretty decent wave clear from whenever I've gone up against him. Probably not as good as early game Jace though.
Yeah. Well, that being said, yeah, taking into account the compositions that both teams have drafted here, as well as game one's result, who do you think takes game number two, Abba?
This one's a lot more tricky. I think I'm gonna go with Uranus again.
Hmm.
I just kind of like the pick composition. They certainly have the patience and the spacing for it,
Yeah.
and it can be very difficult for them, hypnotic gaming, to deal with. So that's how I think it's gonna go.
Yeah, once again, I'm actually on the same page as you. I also really just want to see a poke composition be played out really
Hmm.
well, um, because I feel like that's indicative of a lot of skill. Like I've seen teams try to run poke compositions in amateur, and it's like very middling results depending on what elo you're in.
Hmm.
But I definitely think that PCE have the opportunity to pull that off, and yeah, I like poke as well.
Yeah,
Um,
everyone has to know their role, and if you don't know your
yeah,
role, it makes it a lot more difficult.
yeah, absolutely. But we're going to wait for that spectator delay to tick down. And then when we return after a short break, we will have game number two of Hypnotic Gaming versus Planetary Collision Esports. Uranus. All right, hello and welcome back, everyone, to game number 2 of Hypnotic Gaming versus Planetary Collision Esports Uranus. It looks like Hypnotic might be committing for a 5-man. There is the dredge line right onto yours, sincerely, and that is the easy and fast first blood. Goes straight onto Scruff Ninja, who Wager is incredibly happy about that, getting that early
Yeah,
first blood gold in.
especially with a tier. The big question is, did we see them emote before that kill? That's the big question.
No, I don't think that emote was there. I think yours sincerely was actually hoping that they were at max range on the dredge line, but not to be. So Scruff Ninja gets to start lane with that extra sapphire crystal and kind of shores up those mana problems that you were talking about before. No, no, don't do it. He lands another one. There's the grounded as well. Yours sincerely, you just got back into lane, dude.
Welcome to the pain train. I mean, he got some nice first strike gold there. Yeah, well, I would say 8 gold ahead, but that kill really changed that up.
Uh, okay, like critically, right? Didn't have to flash with that second hook, right? So it's not a doomsday scenario. Top lane might be seeing more of the same from game number 1. Game number 1, we saw King Coney, Ultimate Cars, duke it out a lot at the level 1 to level 2.
I don't see
King
anyone's
Coney kind of
flashes
abusing
down.
the fact that Jace is just has ranged and melee form, kind of just mess around with the Aatrox.
Oh,
It's a little stun proc there.
yeah, not able to get the 5th plasma proc. Still, being able to chunk the engage support does make their job a little bit more difficult. Ooh, Coney missing that initial shot. Not getting as much of a trade, but that push could mean the range form's going to be a little bit more difficult for cars to deal with.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, the other thing that works out quite nicely for King Coney is having that phase rush available. Because hit that early level 2, just able to jump right in, proc phase rush, walk away.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say is PCE. They got some biscuit enjoyers on their team. 4 members
Oh, yeah.
have biscuits.
They must be British.
Oh no. Yours sincerely, this is not a position you want to be in. Flash for flash gets used. Will the poison tick down? Yes, it does. Scruff Ninja is very happy with how this game is going so far.
That there's nothing else to say there other than that's a bit of a yikes moment when that happens to you.
Oh yeah.
3 minutes in, 2 deaths that you're gonna be getting some questions from your captain after this game.
But I swear, Abba, like this is a series between friends.
Yeah.
Like it really feels like both of these teams are messing around a little bit.
They're for funning it. Yeah.
Just poking each other for fun. That being said, it's not fun to play Corky and 2 kills down, and you see that this Cassio is now 2-0, coming back into lane with a completed lost chapter at 3.5 minutes.
Ooh,
Oh,
that is
God.
pretty terrible. They have 69 charges in their tier. Nice.
Nice.
That being said, it could be worse for yours sincerely. They could be starting with a cull, which could make their scenario way worse.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that being said, mid lane not the best of times for
No.
ECE, as you can see that yours sincerely is just getting chunked out by Scruff Ninja just existing. Really, lands that bit of poison, gets that enhanced movement speed. Is able to kind of chase this Corky down. All the other lanes, things are kind of muted. Not too much aggression that we've seen. Obviously, King Coney having better end of things there in the top lane.
Fishing for some hooks.
Otherwise, yeah, nothing too shocking.
Yeah, Coney gets some nice abuse in, rotate, wait for the push so that he can set up for another slow push. Oh my. Oh my.
I mean, like, a little bit of AP goes a long way with Maokai.
Yeah.
So, if if Woodland's able to find an opportunity, that can stack up incredibly nicely.
And it is a cheap item too, right? Yeah. Magi Soul Stealer is actually a pretty good item from when you're behind. Obviously, it doesn't have it built yet, but it's one of the cheapest to gold ratios. So if you're going to come back, sometimes that is the answer to an out, even though you typically see it to extend leads.
Yeah, absolutely. Top lane King Coney continues to extend the lead that he's built for himself. Elsewhere, nothing too shocking. Like I think we did talk about it a little bit in game number one, but Maokai's clear speed not
Hmm.
exactly the healthiest thing in the world. As you can see, Woylan a little bit behind on that pacing, at least compared to Riddy. And Ultimate Cars is just not having a great time here in top lane once again. Uh,
It is
Kind of
the
just has to just sit back because Jace has the run of it.
it is the counter matchup lane. What's like,
Yeah.
well, last pick, counter pick. It's to be expected. Doorhin's shield putting in as much work as it physically can.
Oh,
Ooh, a nice
and
setup
Coney
here.
actually ate a whole lot of damage there. You got to be careful about those
Hmm.
sweet spots with Aatrox. Didn't land
And,
all of them.
and the minion
Still,
abuse he faced as well. He had some minions aggroed onto him. And if this
that's
early
true.
on, it does a lot more than you want it to.
Yeah. Otherwise, though, early Dragon Gang started up by the side of Hypnotic. This is something that they weren't able to get for themselves in game number one, but works out quite nicely for game number two. Just a little bit of armor and MR feels nice
Yeah, I
to have,
mean,
especially in
against
like a poke
poke.
matchup.
Yeah. And the other thing is they were able to get some mid prio for, I feel like, fairly obvious reasons with the 2-0 lead that they have. And bot side, they were able to get some nice clear there as well. And Bolin, it's not like they can do it by themselves when they did it with Jarvan beforehand.
Woylan is playing the long game here.
Hmm.
He's been sitting in this bush in top lane for a hot second. Doesn't look like Kars is quite gonna fall for it yet. And as I say, he's walking forward. He's walking forward, and there's the Maokai. There's the twisted advance. World Ender getting popped by the Aatrox
Ooh.
to just walk his way out. That is a whole ton of damage onto the Maokai, though.
Was
King
that
Coney still
250?
incredibly dangerous in his own right. Lands a decent shock blast. And yeah, the Aatrox is already half health. No summoners left available, but you can see Riddy waiting in the wings in the mid lane. Yours sincerely is eating a whole ton of damage. Back to top lane. King Coney now getting quite low. The Aatrox is devastating. Riddy is able to finalize the kill. Hypnotic Viper coming in. Does flash hook, but yeah, Woylan critically able to walk his way out of it, get out with his own flash. So another kill over to the side of Hypnotic. They are 3-0 on the map. They have a 1.5k gold lead at 8 minutes, which is very healthy.
That is very good for them. It's still the early game, but some of these early advantages that we thought would be pretty nice, like in the top side, haven't been panning out, and some of the scalability things that we thought about here as well have definitely favored blue side with Scruff Ninja. Any extra gold onto a late game champion early on is really helpful. It just compounds as their weakest portion of the game isn't quite as weak here. As we can see, it 20 CS lead here because of it.
Dim's back does get stopped up by She Was Nice. Doesn't look like there's really going to be that much more to be had, but staggering the backs in bot lane can work out to very like and be very nice,
Mhm.
provided you're able to make use of that. And I believe that Hypnotic certainly are that sort of team.
Plus, they're
But yeah,
level
to talk
6.
about how things are going, solo lane, you were talking about the mid lane prio that Scruff
Mhm.
Ninja has, and that's just absolutely true. There really isn't much that yours sincerely can do to be competitive because the Cassiopeia has so much gold already.
Mhm.
Even though that's
Oh.
rough.
Yeah, it just wasn't able to cancel the
Or
back.
he wanted to stop the back and just doesn't quite happen because the minion wave is there. Top lane, Ultimate Cars missing a number of abilities that would be otherwise quite annoying for Jace to deal with. So you can still see that Jace is still completely competent. Like even in spite of those two early assists for the Aatrox, and that's really mostly the range. Being able to kind of choose your fights. Cars still pretty scary. World Ender gets popped. Darkened Blade procs not quite landing in there. King Coney just able to smack him back with the hammer. So yeah, the Jace is still able to stay relatively safe. Bot lane might have a gank brewing though. As Woylan joins support in that river bush.
Yep, the other
Although
jungler's
River's
there
not
though,
far
so it
away.
would be a 4v4, which would be pretty interesting, especially with this Voidling Rift Herald sitting on their jungle. Be pretty volatile depending on how that fight turns out. Sure, it happened.
Yeah, and Ray's being quite patient, kind of just waiting. Tries to maximize the possibility of being undetected. Those minions do
Hmm.
provide a little bit of vision into that uh, way in. But this might be the call, and no, looks like it's not.
Yeah, sensing something out there. It's super dangerous for them. They really want to get that wave under so they can get out. You don't want to be pushing against an engaged support just because it's so far to your own tower for your safety. It can lead to your own demise.
Yeah, especially because Woyland are already started pathing up towards the
Hmm.
top lane. Like
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
this is just not something that they can healthily commit for. But that being said, Maokai is there in the top lane in the tribe rush for King Coney. Might look for another lane gank, but they're in bot lane. Dim does eat
Ooh.
the hook. Not much more to be had out of it mid lane. I actually like this move from Ready to pop
Mhm.
that Rift Herald. A, because Dragon's coming up at B, it provides a lot of mid lane pressure. But speaking of pressure, bot lane, she was nice. Forced to use the Featherstorm defensively, but Concussive Blows does not get the
Oh.
stun onto the Xayah. Double root coming down, double knock up with that depth charge. And here comes Riddy. Flash committed by Dim. There's the Dredge line coming in. Top lane, though, Cars is in a whole lot of trouble. Does get rooted down. Cannot get the lifesteal to sustain it through and does end up dying there in the top lane. So, one kill apiece, the top and bottom of the map on both opposite sides. But, I gotta say, like, while it's good to get stuff for the Jace, that's another dragon, that's a whole lot of plates in the bot lane. And Belveth really happy to get, a few more stacks of Void Coral early. You're talking about late game scaling, and Belveth is certainly one of those types of champions.
Yeah, I really like the play that Woland did. I think they recognized the scenario that bot lane was in, and it was
Mhm.
probably just going to happen. They weren't going to be able to rotate. They had to path out. So they tried to get something topside. Still a camp, of course. Riddy's also doing the same, stealing a Grand Pierre as well. We'll have to see if he's going to get that blue buff as well.
Yeah.
But they're also getting some nice vision advantage here. Just got neutralized, but still, they're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of minutes ago, in the river, I believe, uh, PCE actually had a lot of vision coverage. They still have a decent amount, but it's a bit more defensive. The wards have kind of been pushed back as far as that ward line goes. So it's good that Hypnotic was able to kind of just clear out what vision they could. Unfortunately, the defensive vision in the river has kind of already been reestablished. That being
Mhm.
said, Hypnotic are at a decent lead, right? They're not quite at 3K, about 2.6 or so, 2.3. But considering how game number one went, they are a lot more comfortable with how things are going so far. Yes, Cars is not having a great time in top lane, but everywhere else things are fairly healthy.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Uh, 2,000 gold is pretty much the threshold for like driver's seat once you get out of the early game here.
Hmm.
And we're still in the early game, but it's going to be done in about 40 seconds unless someone takes the tower. They do have some nice, evenish minion waves
Roland are
here.
getting popped there in top lane. Ultimate car is quite low. Riddy has appeared. Oh, that does not land knock up, so not much more to be had. Oh gosh, Cars is low.
Yeah,
You can kind of see, like, it kind of looked like King Coney for a bit there. It was like fathoming, oh, could I just switch to hammer form and
and
run
bonk them.
forward, kill the Aatrox? Nope, no shock blast kill this time.
No, but it does delay the back here, making it a little bit more difficult, getting him more time to split push.
Mhm.
Perhaps Riddy's going to have to hover around here and he's got the defensive wards should he want it. It looks like they're making an aggressive move up here with Hypnotic Viper.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see that King Coney playing it a bit safe.
Hmm.
Probably was aware. Yeah, I do believe that
Especially with Rift
Hypnotic
coming
Viper
up.
showed on a ward. So yeah, Jay stays pretty safe. Yours sincerely has package available, like actually has it. Like not, it's not just a base. Corki
Yeah.
has the package. It's kind of curious because yes, there's an objective to be played around with the next spawning Rift Herald, but typically I feel like you see those saved and timed around the dragon spawns. So interested
There,
to see what yours sincerely is going
there
to do with
is
this.
one other thing to consider. Riddy does get additional benefits out of the Rift Herald.
Yeah, because the coral.
Hmm.
So it looks like that's might be what they are angling for. King Coney forcing cars away. The Aatrox does have TP available if a fight breaks out. Bot lane though, she was nice, able to get that solo turret for themselves, and yeah, things are relatively even in the bot lane as far as
Uh,
CS
five
goes.
500 gold difference though between the 80 carries because of those two assists.
Yeah, those two assists do make a decent bit difference there, and you can see the other part of it is that she was nice, is able to save some gold by having
Hmm.
magical footwear.
Yep.
So
Glad to
it
notice that too.
yeah, it feels pretty good for the Zaya. That being said, for all the prep that PCE did lay down, doesn't look like they're able to force Riddy away from going for this Rift Herald. Katsuna taken fairly low by those feathers, as well as the Cassiopeia. So it it feels like to me that PCE are getting a bit choked out in this game so far.
Hmm.
Like it's not as though they're having like a devastating loss anywhere, but more that Hypnotic are able to control the map a lot better than they were last game.
They might have been able to challenge them out there because a lot of that. Well, actually, I take that back because their ADC and and support, I should say, hadn't spent their gold. It was all on them, which is a good
Mhm.
chunk of their lead. But they were at the other side of the map slash already backed, so that might not have actually made a difference. I mean, Coney does have his Eclipse, which is a nice early game item here, and Woolen does have their first item here as well. Uh, but it just it's so difficult for them to get onto targets when your goal is to hook onto a target with some sort of engage. If you don't have the damage to follow that up, that makes the composition difficult to do.
Yeah, Rift Herald will be popped as Dragon is going to be spawning in just about 10 seconds. The Rift will claim that mid lane outer turret in favor of Hypnotic. Scruff Ninja is a massive threat all on their own, right? The
Hmm.
Archangels going to be upgraded just a little bit. Oh man, cars. This is rough to watch, just because you're getting forced away constantly. You're getting hard poked out. There's not too much you can do. Cars opting to
Yeah,
walk away, maybe sniff out the aggression that's incoming. But Ghost has been popped by Katsuna. Doesn't look like much else will happen. You can see there is a fair number of committed resources for the Aatrox there, but it
it
doesn't
did
look like they
cost
are
him
going
his
to do
flash,
anything.
Ghost for flash. It's the 80 carries Ghost, so pretty important, especially with her E movement
Yeah,
speed with
I
that
mean, it was
2.6.
Maokai ult
So.
too, which is
Yeah,
fairly
that's
important, but
true.
there's not too much that the team should be fighting over.
No, they really just need to get some more gold and XP under their champions. Soul Point is going to be happening in 4 minutes. It's Wind Soul, so not as impactful uh, as some people might think, but it's still pretty nice to have.
Oh, Flash Depth Charge actually being used by Hypnotic Viper. The hook actually does land onto Katsuna as well. Kaisa getting incredibly low. Ready gonna flash over the wall, try to finalize the kill. Wants the coral, doesn't quite get it. Belveth goes down before claiming that little bounty. The shutdown gold goes on to King Coney. The rest of Hypnotic are there. You can see, though, that Scruff Ninja is in the top lane. So, 1 for 1, all being said, I have to imagine, though, Riddy is a bit annoyed. Like, yes, you get the kill, but no, you don't get the coral, which is what you really wanted there.
Yeah, that is pretty good news for them. I'm not sure if going 1 for 1 for 80 carry for jungler is necessarily worth it with no objectives being around. They
Mhm.
really need that gold on Katsuna, which is not particularly great for them. They still have their backup, yours sincerely, who's pushing to the bot
Ooh.
side, blowing
Petrifying
mana.
Gaze using the top lane by Scruff Ninja gets popped away by King Coney. There's the Shock Blast as well. Shield does get popped. Scruff Ninja kind of running for the hills. This Jace, as you said, with that Eclipse in the inventory already quite devastating.
Mm-hmm. Trying to get a mana Mira with a tier of their own at
We're in
204.
a bit of a rough spot. There is no depth charge just quite yet, but the knockup is all you really need. Riddy gets a kill.
Yeah, Coney wasn't really able to do stuff. Try and get some poke, missed, and then Woolen just got caught out there. So we can see there's a decent number of vision around there, but because of the way the turrets are, no mid or bot lane, they're able to rotate a little bit more freely. She is nice, is able to just kind of sit here in the mid lane and chill.
Yeah, and we were talking about builds heading into this. We were hoping that we were going to see like a very poke-oriented build from uh, PCE. It looks like Katsuna, like, and I know we didn't talk about this at the start of the game. Looks like Katsuna going for that more like standard attack speed oriented build.
Hmm.
Yes, that can still change, but uh, doesn't look like W is going to be the poke they're looking for the Kaisa. And if you're Hypnotic, I think that's fine. Like, you need something to invest into late game as far as team fighting goes. This because the Belveth and the Cassio are just going to get more and more terrifying as time goes on.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be the case. Uh, there is only a 3,000 gold difference, which has been maintained throughout the laning phase into this mid game right now at the 20-minute mark,
Mhm.
which is in some sense good news for them. they aren't going to scale as hard as the opposing team because Jace is going to fall off, Coney's going to fall off. But they do have some nice scalability to go for it. So they have to win the late game, but not the late game, I think,
Yeah.
for them to be able to capture this.
And you can also see Yours Sincerely with that deficit very early on, committed for a more wave clear oriented kind of build there with the
Hmm.
Ravenous. Um, Still needs to finish Mythic item, but otherwise, like you were saying that the gold lead is kind of stalled, and yeah, it absolutely is. There have been like incremental gains for
Hmm.
Hypnotic, but at the moment, it kind of feels like they're just waiting to get their soul in the next minute. They don't want
Yeah.
to like potentially fight around Baron.
Yeah, why risk it? Like I
Yeah.
said, Baron throws happen, and we saw Baron steal last game, so that's certainly something that could be going on. I'm wondering if they're going to try and fight this Baron out, or they're going to say no, we're too far behind, and might try and crank out Baron on their own or something. Yours Sincerely does have teleport, and they've been kind of hovering around there, but they don't have the vision set up for it, and it looks like they're hovering more towards the bottom river, is where they're kind of hovering right now. So they might be trying to fight this out, which makes sense. It's gonna be a very
Yeah.
divisive team fight.
You're actually it looks like PCE might be willing to trade soul for having Prio on starting up and taking Baron. Based on positioning, it looks like Hypnotic realized that's a possibility. That's why they're not fully committing all the way down there, and they can see how many members of Planetary Collision are towards that Baron side of things. So looks like Planetary Collision, that plan doesn't quite work out for them. Dragon is going to get started up. PCE, they might still angle for the Baron.
Yeah, they certainly can. They haven't started it soon enough, in my opinion, and it looks like Katsuna's walking away to try and get some of that mid wave stuff. They're gonna have to be pretty efficient with their wave clear. If they're not, they can't keep these waves from crashing into their towers. It'll be very difficult for them to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, as far as itemization goes, you can still, I would still say it's definitively in favor
Hmm.
of Hypnotic. The Baron is on the table, and you can see both teams kind of playing around that. Certainly, PCE have all 5 members committed around it.
Yeah, cars can teleport at any moment. Well, it's gonna be a
Yeah,
little bit hard with this thing going down. Their jungler isn't there, which makes it a little bit more difficult, but they don't need to because it's
okay,
pretty
yours
clear
sincerely
that.
might be looking for something here. The Corki is quite dangerous. See, yeah, they're going straight in with the package, trying to kill the Cassiopeia, and there's the CC, there's the knockup. 700 gold shut down. But on the other side of it, Katsuna got like hard engaged on, and
Hmm.
ends up giving a kill over. So 1-for-1 across the map. Even with that kill, I don't think that PCE can really angle for a Baron start, especially because they don't have Katsuna on the map yet. Oh wait, there's a dredge line. Woylan just evaporates. That's also partially a consequence of the early damage on Maokai. You're not particularly
Hmm.
tanky, but yeah.
Yeah, you're certainly not as tanky. And if he hasn't been able to do a whole lot of damage, just because of how his team's been positioned, and because of some of this commitment into the top side and that catch right there, they're gonna be able to get this Baron. Probably take the game.
King Coney will go on a killing spree. This Hypnotic Viper does finally go down. Dim, potentially in the eyes of She Was Nice. King Coney flashing away from that aggression. The Aatrox was so angry about it, but Baron has gone down. Triple kill for Scruff Ninja as the Cassiopeia TP's in, looking for a Quadra. And that's a Valk forward from Yours Sincerely. Cassio get that quad. Doesn't quite look like it as the Corki barely stays alive.
Yeah, Katsuna tried to get some kills in there, try and get that stun off for the plasma stack. Wasn't enough. There was a cars
Still
on top of
angling
them.
for it.
Just didn't
Oh
work.
dear, Woylan, this is not where you want to be. Ultimate Cars able to get the kill with the pull in from the chains. And it really looks like this game is all Hypnotic, firing on all cylinders right now. You can see Riddy in that top lane, pushing that wave down with the Baron enhanced minions there in mid lane as well. Yours Sincerely, yes, you have poke, but you also don't want to be here, considering how low you already are. And that is a
Hmm.
huge wave up top.
Yep. The extra minions coming out of Belvath there with the Baron buff is devastating, taking those 2 towers. Exactly what they needed to be getting out of this 9K gold. Well, it's 8K. It's 8K gold lead.
Yeah. I mean, but like just before the Baron goes down, that was
Hmm.
just like a 3K gold lead. So
Hmm.
massive gold swing in the favor of Hypnotic. They're able to just extend out that lead that had kind of been stalled out a fair bit before. Now the game is kind of blown wide open. There are no turrets left, or there are no non-base turrets left for the side of PCE, and they are hard on the defense game right now. And they have reliable wave clear, but I feel like with the spot that they're in, you're kind of like people kind of struggle to find a way for them to get back into the game, especially when you see something like this. Yours sincerely, this is not a spot you want to be in. Ultimate Car is now on a killing spree. Dredge line goes forward. There's the depth charge as well. 3 members knocked up, 2 already down. Dim running for the hills, trying to get to to King Coney to keep the Jace alive. Doesn't work out. Double kill for the Belveth. Full ace across the board. And Hypnotic in the honestly dominant fashion, right? They got an early
Yeah.
lead, they didn't let go of it, and they played out for their opportunity. They're going to end this game before 30 minutes ticks.
Well, and you asked like, how do you come back from this? And the answer is you really don't. You wait for your opponent to make a big mistake, and then you capitalize on that. That's why that last game took a little bit longer. They were able to just kind of punish some light mistakes. Yeah, the gold, didn't help, and some of the macro differences didn't help, but they were able to stall things out a little bit more. And here it was just driver's seat the whole time. They knew exactly what they wanted, when they needed to do it, and they executed it very well.
I mean, having that clear game plan, like I think the other thing is that they kind of acknowledged like, okay, well, we have to give up counter pick in top lane. So, uh, we're not giving up Aatrox. Like, sorry, cars, you kind of have to, you know, eat it for a little bit. But the rest of the map did incredibly well for themselves, especially because those early kills for Scruffy work out so well addressing the mana issues that we were kind of getting into. Uh, 3.5 minute lost chapter will help a long way with that. But
Yeah.
honestly, even though this is a block of 3, now it feels like just the best of 3 because both teams are 1 game apiece, and I'm very entertained as far as this series has gone on.
Both teams are very competent. They know what to do when they're in the driver's seat and really crunch out some games. So I am very excited for this last game in this block of three. We'll have to see if our prediction is going to be right. We've been on the same page so far, so we've both been right and both been wrong.
Yeah, we are united in being O2.
Well, and the other thing is we were like, oh, okay, so they did this pick. It's going to be a sort of poke matchup, and then they just didn't.
Yeah, it
Every
kind of got thrown out of the door when the
Yeah.
Corky dies twice very early on. But hey, that's how it breaks down. Like that being said, incredibly excited going into game number 3. Uh, I hope you are as well, Abba, and I hope everyone
Mhm.
else watching is too, as we will see right after the break who will take this series between Hypnotic Gaming and Planetary Collision Esports Uranus. Hello and welcome back, everyone, for our final game of the night, Game 3 versus Planetary Collision Esports Uranus versus Hypnotic Gaming. They have finally swapped sides, so Uranus is on blue, Hypnotic is on red. For one final time, I am True to Bagel. I'm your play-by-play caster for the night, and joined alongside me, it's Abbatrom holding it down with the music. That being said, Uranus, they took a pretty hard loss last game as the series tied up 1-1, or I guess the block tied up 1-1. You're headed in to game number 3's pick ban phase, and looks like Hypnotic giving over the Jinx once more. Uranus, on the other hand, they said we do not want to play against the Belveth anymore.
Yeah, Belveth kind of sucks to play against. The first two bans of both teams have been pretty similar. Talia, Oriana, Gwen, Rakan. Honestly, can't blame you. Hate playing against those champions. But it looks like Zaya versus Ziggs. A bit of a mouthful to say if Ziggs goes into the bot lane. The harassment, the range advantage that you have there, it can be very difficult for Zaya as her range isn't as large, and he could just really poke you out, and it's really annoying, especially if he gets a nice gold lead, as he can chew through those towers if they get between the execute threshold and that W.
Yeah, absolutely. Zaya can scale up incredibly well. It worked out quite decently for Hypnotic last game, but this time it's on the side of Uranus. Looks like both teams potentially locking in their bot lanes, although Ziggs is still flexible. I feel like I see bot lane Ziggs a bit more than I see a mid lane Ziggs.
Mm-hmm.
I believe last patch, Ziggs' Q AoE, the detonation zone, got a little bit bigger. So
Yep.
Ziggs is just that much more usable as a champion. Looks like Syndra going to be the lock-in, something that's been banned from Phase 2 in the previous games, and Uranus kind of just laying it down and says, okay, well, banning it, we're going to lock it in this time. Hypnotic, based on those, like the click-throughs, it looks like they want to just lock mid here as well.
Yeah, beforehand they've been doing jungle in the first slot, but they have not been doing that. It looks like another AP sort of assassin into the mid lane, unless they go
Or
with Graves. Okay. That being
that could still
said,
be jungle in theory.
now I guess that could be jungle. It could be either, which is a
Yeah.
nice flexibility for their team. I do want to highlight the Alistair pick. I think is pretty good here because they go engage. He can just knock you away for that Nautilus, even though he dredge lines in, can just headbutt you out, which I think is pretty smart, as well as Syndra. So they're really saying no dive with Zaya, Alistar, and Syndra, which will make things a little bit more difficult for Echo if he's not able to nuke you in and then time his way out.
Yeah, I mean, Uranus has a lot of zone control, right? Between that Feather Storm, Alistair being able to either peel or just have strong AoE with Pulverize, and then Syndra as well with Scatter the Weak. Uranus can certainly control a choke point decently with just those three champions alone. Hypnotic, as you said, being a bit more flexible. Technically, Ziggs can flex bot mid, Echo can flex mid jungle, so we're playing things a bit close to the vest. You can see, though, bans so far in this second phase oriented towards top lane, especially because there are no mid lane picks to ban away. Hypnotic, kind of letting time tick down. They're not sure what they want to ban. It might actually just tick out. Yeah, it
They
does.
ticked out.
Let's see.
It looks like they're going for a Camille.
Yeah,
Okay. That's
Yeah.
very respectable. Split top laner. Wow, and this block.
4 bans top. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty devastating to the top side. The Fiora took a lot of games here. Darius can do a similar function. Poppy can be for jungle, but probably not going to be. Well, they might have been able to set up for that with their composition. I mean, Camille, of course, can also just take away games. Ivern Rengar. Oh, so this is an Ivern top Rengar jungle?
I think it might be the other way around. I'm not entirely certain.
It could be the other way around as well. But Enchanter top is certainly a thing. We'll have to see what cards is going to be picking here.
I think it's legitimately a possibility for Ivern top because King Kony's most played champion is Rengar, and he does play at top lane.
Oh, okay.
So So this might okay, like it's a game three, right? This is a block of three. It's they might be going for a little bit of for fun shenanigans, right, with Ivor and Rengar. That being said, Hypnotic's response is Cassante, which, provided it gets tanky enough, Rengar will have quite a difficult time trying to bite through.
Hmm.
But that being said, I appreciate that Uranus is going for something potentially incredibly entertaining.
Yeah, it's what we like to call content.
Yeah.
Uh, One thing I do want to mention is he can kind of just cleanse his way through Cassante's ultimate. I believe you can do on Urgot's ultimate.
Mhm.
So he could be on the other end of where Cassante wants him to be.
Yeah, I mean, Rengar can just use that enhanced battle roar, get his
Hmm.
way out of a whole lot of CC. But as far as zone control goes, Uranus kind of invested even more into that with the Ivern, Daisy with that AOE knockup, but also kind of being able to deny vision into certain areas if you set up bushes appropriately makes it harder for Hypnotic to, you know, be willing to scout, be willing to face check. And when you can look at the draft that Hypnotic has for themselves, it's a very short range draft, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, Ziggs is long range, but the rest of it, Nautilus, Echo, Graves, Cassante, these are in your face sorts of champions. And honestly, I feel like Uranus has the tools to kind of bounce them away if they so choose.
Echo Q can go pretty decent in distance,
Yeah.
but yeah, still mostly up close champion. And Uranus definitely has good range with Syndra, and there's not necessarily an actual like danger zone, but with bushes, it can be really dangerous to hover around those or position around them because Rengar can get into them just a little bit more sneakily with weirder angles because bushes can be popping up to jump between them from that Ivern.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're just getting through the proper pick ban now, and I think the thing I'm just genuinely most interested in is seeing a Rengar top, because typically when you see a Rengar top, like this is like, okay, you see it in the solo queue as a cheese pick, um, but this is a fairly high elo match between teams. Um, Interested to see like what King Coney decides to itemize.
Yeah, let him cook. Let him cook. Uh, the advantage of Rengar versus Graves, if that should happen to the top side, is you don't get to build grit stacks if you're dead.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the rest of the teams goes, I do want to see how bot lane plays out, because I've seen Ziggs be hilariously successful in some cases. You just have like extreme wave control. You're able to poke out the enemy bot lane quite efficiently. And also, when you think about it, Nautilus provides a lot of the CC lockdown that Ziggs would really like to have.
Mhm.
Uh, that being said, as you said before, Alistair can kind of just boop Nautilus away
It-
if that's the angle they look for.
It's going to be a harass angle with Nautilus probably trying to roam somewhere, but is going to be my guess. And Echo can also roam, which I really like out of Hypnotic's positioning because Graves can also clear pretty fast. That being said, their best lane is Hypnotic's for Hypnotic is bot lane, but Uranus has a lot of nice favorable lanes like Syndra, got some nice wave clear, so could potentially follow up on Echo's roam and just harass him to make it difficult for him to beat just because he's so low or has to spend mana to keep the wave at a neutral state. And then top lane, it's a little bit of a toss up in my opinion, right? If Rengar gets some extra gold early on or an extra kill for that extra AD, it can be pretty hard for Cassante. But the moment Cassante gets that tankiness, it also becomes a little bit more difficult for him.
Yeah, I think also Cassante is a pretty big X factor in this game,
Mm-hmm.
because he is a champion that can kind of peel away part of the front line for you, or completely isolate someone
He, he,
like one of your carries and fully competently kill them. Like, we all know them
yeah.
here.
Well, the thing is, his all out also got nerfed, I believe, from that last patch as well.
Mhm.
So that I haven't just seen enough of Cassante in the new patch for me to be like, and this is how this will turn out. Uh,
Yeah, like as far as complaints go, I know that a lot of people were complaining. Like, I believe a hotfix nerf had to come in for him because
mhm,
like his win rate in solo queue spiked immensely.
mhm.
But they were more like Riot was more aiming at nerfing his presence in professional pro play, uh, while also allowing him to become like more or feel better when you play him in solo queue. So maybe that's kind of a result of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, 5v5, you're trying to play as coordinated as possible. So maybe Cassante does not pan out super well.
I diagnose you with new champion syndrome. I know he's not that new, but like he's still new enough to be better than some of these other top laners.
Time until you're healed, 200 years. But
Yeah.
that being said, I'm very excited to see how this game plays out, how this block ends up wrapping up. But we will wait for that spectator to delay to tick out, and then when we come back, the final game between Planetary Collision Esports Uranus versus Hypnotic Gaming will begin, and Abba and I will be there for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.
There's a toxin. Yeah, I was like, we're due for a prediction. We never actually gave them a prediction. I went, you know what? We're 0-2. We're gonna, nah.
Yeah, we'll play it out. We don't have to talk about it.
We don't want to talk about it. And we're like, yeah. So there's a couple weird X factors in here that's very difficult. I would have said Uranus, by the way.
I'm sorry.
I would have said Uranus as the. I think they're gonna
For the
win.
team. Like, I mean, like they have the more entertaining draft. Like
Yeah.
at least, and I do just want to see whatever is more entertaining. So I also also with the zone control that they have, I think they can be completely successful as well.
They have a lot of on top of you champions. They have a lot of no get away from me champions. That's my logic.
Yeah.
Oh, game too easy said you guys are fine though. You have an overpowered black man.
Oh
Oh my
man.
gosh.
Okay.
Cringe.
All right, I'm paused at 5.
Yeah, I'm at about 5. Let's see here.
Nothing terribly surprising as far as setup goes. I mean, I don't know that Syndra's go-to is Summonary.
It can be if she's going for a more poke build.
Okay. And against Echo, that makes sense, yeah. Okay. Alright.
Game
Ready to go when
time.
you are.
Awesome. I was just making sure everything got set up. I have to like double click the scoreboard on off. I found that fixes it being weird. Anyways,
Also, apparently they can still hear us.
oh, they can still hear us. Well,
Yeah.
oh well.
Whoops.
I'll go for... Whenever you're supposed to switch scenes, it's supposed to mute you. So I guess I'll just manually do it.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
3 of Hypnotic Gaming versus Planetary Collision Esports Uranus. Looks like Hypnotic wants to repeat the success they had from previous game. Look for a bit of a cheeky five man. Look to get a kill. Dredge line this time doesn't quite work out. This way they get spotted out. They do get a ward kill. So, you know, a little bit of vision score, a little bit of CS advantage over.
Ooh, 5 gold.
Yeah, that's literally an infinite amount of gold because no gold generation is quite started up yet. But otherwise, nothing terribly surprising as far as setup goes for each of the champions. I believe that all eyes are just kind of on this top lane. King Coney here having the surprise Rengar pick.
Yep. Also in the mid lane too, in case we get an emote death as well.
I would not be surprised to see King Coney just, brush camp and just get some cheeky autos in with Rengar passive, because that is exactly what top lane Rengar seeks to do, and yeah, you can already see it's happening there. King Gars, once again, eating a whole lot of damage early.
Oh my goodness, dear. You weren't kidding.
Oh man, that is gross.
Yeah, going out to Wisconsin with that kind of cheese.
Oh yeah. That being said, Cassante will get very tanky in his own right eventually. So
especially if he can get any sort of grass stacks, he wants those nice short engages. If he can get an auto out, versus Coney wants those longer, kind of chases with his Conqueror.
Yeah. Being said, Cars just got his first CS of the game a little bit ago, which feels pretty awful, considering there's already been like almost 3 waves. But yeah, otherwise things are kind of muted. You can see though in this bot lane though, She Was Nice as well as Hypnotic Viper, Ziggs is able to just push with wanton aggression, just because Ziggs has bombs.
Yeah.
Kaisa, yes, you will have wave clear eventually, but not going to match Ziggs this early.
Yeah, Zaya will have some wave clear. The E does do reduced damage to minions, so that kind of hurts, but you're able to get advantage.
Scruff Ninja forced to pop another corrupting potion charge. And
yeah, HP is going down on pretty much every lane. Everyone's getting chunked out in some regard there. I will highlight, though, that Katsune is pretty comfortable here going with an early cull, knowing that they're probably going to be pushed in and just going to be farming under tower for a while.
Yeah, it's not to say that Kaisa can't farm it. They're like, oh my lord.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a quarter of a length kind of chump distance. And yeah, I know that's what Rengar is supposed to do, but it doesn't feel good to deal with.
Yeah.
Cars just not had an easy series.
He was sitting there just hovering towards top, and he's like, yeah.
Oh, they're committing for a dive. Oh, this
nice kitty!
Yeah. Looks like that first blood will go over straight to King Coney bot lane. It's like a slight commitment. They wanted to get Katsuna, but the Zai is able to stay safe. Doesn't even have to burn a single summoner. But the ball has gotten rolling in the top lane. King Coney, exactly what you wanted for the Rengar. Mid lane, Scruff Ninja having a rough time. That's also kind of what we expected, though, right? You locked in Echo, and you're playing against Syndra, so yeah, it might be difficult.
Yeah, it's certainly the case. So let's look at the gold between them. It's only 100 gold difference in the mid lane.
Oh dear.
Oh, that's gonna change. Oh, that's a flash. And the top side, it's only a 300 gold difference, despite that being first blood.
And I think that's also because, as far as top lane Rengar goes, you are very oriented towards getting a lot of harass down against your opponent, which means you tend to sacrifice some CS here and there.
Yep.
That being said, King Coney should still come away with a lead if they're able to wrap up all that stuff under tower. So it'll still be a slightly less the gold for the Rengar. Elsewhere on the map, though, Scruff Ninja coming back into lane with the Dark Seal. Forced to flash away earlier. Honestly, I feel like if yours sincerely had flashed, actually might have gotten one for one kill, or at least a kill. Rather.
Look at that chunk into the mid lane there. Corrupted Pot's going to really help deal some damage and sustain some of that mana from the harass. Electrocute does that. Oh no!
Laid the back with it too, and you were talking about that. Time Winder does extend out quite far, especially because when it pops back, it kind of gets a bit bigger all of a sudden. is able to get that additional AoE off. Dim wants to angle for a headbutt pull, does get it off. No stun to be had quite yet. There's the auto, but Katsuna has to walk forward. Able to get some down, but she was nice. Is in a relatively comfortable spot, able to back in a TP off. So the Ziggs is okay with how things are going.
That's one of the like super great things about playing a mage
Ooh.
bot lane is the TP aspect. But hold the phone. That chunk in the mid lane, kind of spicy.
Yeah, I mean, both flashes committed. Hypnotic Vipers for yours sincerely, and does give Scruff Ninja a bit of breathing room, because now you know the Syndra just can't flash ult you. As far as pacing goes, though, both junglers are oriented around the first dragon, but it looks like Woylan gonna have a bit of a rougher time as far as that setup goes. There's the root, there's the CC, and
Oh,
there is
no.
a fallen Slim Tree. But here comes the Syndra, does land a double stun, as well as King Coney with the Rengar. They do get Hypnotic Viper, and the rest of Hypnotic is in a very awkward position. Scruff Ninja does Chrono Break, but that doesn't get him anywhere, and Katsuna gets the kill. So in spite of the first kill going over, in that exchange rather, going over to the side of Hypnotic Gaming, the collapse works out really, really well for PCE. They're able to reestablish control, and I think they should be getting Dragon off of that.
That
Potentially.
extension. Yeah,
Oh,
I will.
wait,
I will
here
point out
comes
to our
King
viewers.
Coney, Riddy in a whole lot of trouble. There's the knock up. Should just be a dead jungle. Hypnotic Viper tries to come in with the Hex Flash. But that is
God.
devastating. This Rengar is 2-0.
Yeah, he's 2-0 on unique champions, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll highlight that this is Hex Dragon. The top left corner is going to be a little bit bugged out because of how the spectate client works. Hopefully the next one is in Chemtrade because it'll also bug out for that one.
Yeah. Okay, it's not.
Oh, good. Good.
But yeah, like that's a terrifying position to be in, because you know that King Coney, with that early lead in top lane, gonna commit for a very lethality-oriented build. Yes, 3 plates do go over to Cars, and yes, Cars has a slight CS advantage, but they did nerf plate gold. Oh, you're sincerely potentially in an awkward position. Does eat a whole ton of CC. Mindminder come back, doesn't quite get the kill. Unleash Power won't turn it into a trade. Scruff Ninja able to get a kill with the help of support there. Woylan unable to find that root collar. Be able to trade that kill back. Scruff Ninja's still trying to bait it out. Like, he's trying to say, look, Ivern, I'm low. You can commit for this. My support's definitely not right here.
Come on, you sussy baka.
Quite happen. Looks like the Ivern's just trying to hold the lane as well as possible for the Syndra to come back. Dredge line, not going to find anybody. Top lane, Cars might be feeling a bit bolder with the plate steel caps completed. Third proc for the knockup, not going to land critically though. So Hypnotic, despite their early deficit, still looking for aggressive moves. That's something we've seen since game 1. Down in bot lane, though, the lane that we've kind of ignored the past couple of minutes, she was nice, more than happy to just keep pushing forward as this Ziggs.
Yeah, just trying to chug things out, get some gold onto them. She was nice, was able to free push here. It's just their ult is online. Oh no.
That's not a position you want to be in. Does force the flash out with the Featherstorm, but here in the Herald Pit, oh dear, ultimate Cars. Gonna get absolutely blasted into oblivion. Looks like this should be a solid Rift Herald take for the side. PCE, there's a dredge line, finds its way onto yours sincerely, but it doesn't look like a Viper or Scruff Ninja can really commit for anything. Katsuna is having a very rough time in this bot lane. Like, doing Zaya doing your best to hold it down versus a Ziggs that is just constantly pushing forward, but at the end of the day, Ziggs has the wave clear, and there's the CC now onto Dim. Scatter the weak stun is going to find itself onto Riddy, and Riddy gets blown up with the Unleashed Power. Scruff Ninja goes over the wall with the phase dive. Will he land the stun? Doesn't quite look like it. And Dim is able to stay alive. Phase dive back over the wall, trying to look for the cow. Doesn't get the beef, though. There in the top lane, Ultimate Cars has to contend with that Rift Herald. Doesn't look like the knockup is quite there yet. No, it doesn't go through. Now Cars' tower is incredibly low. Sante has to deal very rough position. Now back to the mid lane, Scruff Ninja. There's a flash for flash once again, pretty much on cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
As, you were talking about Viper just giving a lot of presence, constantly roaming out of lane. And that's exactly what has happened so far. But thus far, Abba, looks like PCE is coming away with a relatively healthy lead here at 11 minutes in.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the case, despite the roaming potential. It is nice when he does get the flash because of the Hex Tech flash. He gets that nice kind of pseudo reset on that to help make some of these plays. They just haven't been able to capitalize on it just enough. A lot of these fights have been in the river, like we're seeing right now, and the team with Rengar tends to do a lot better with that.
Yeah, I mean we saw that put to very strong effect around that first Hex Drake. But speaking of leads, right? Even though Coney is one level down, it doesn't feel like the Rengar is all too troubled by
No.
Cassante having an EXP lead. The other thing is that Cassante is also starting to get progressively tankier,
Mm-hmm.
but that tower is incredibly low. There is like what, maybe 200 HP left on it? Like not a
There's
lot. Yeah, 219 on
yeah.
that turret. So
No,
it's just a couple of auto attacks at this
that
point.
that turret plate was split up between the jungler and Coney as well, so Woolen took some of that. That being said, Rengar's pretty gold efficient, especially with two stacks on his passive. I will mention that Woolen also has a Dark Seal of their own, so a lot of Dark Seals this game. I think we've seen 7 total
Cars, you
now.
have got to be careful. I don't think you can really make your way out of it, especially because Rengar up in the ultimate just wants that one jump in for the auto. Ooh! You can
Yeah,
see Cars wanted to queue up ultimate onto Coney the moment the Rengar pops out of vision, but auto
he
attack
flashed
damage
and
landed
died
first.
too.
Yep.
That's what really hurts. It's a 5-minute cooldown. A very competitive match.
Yeah. It's very unfortunate, but with the jungler showing on the top side, looks like Hypnotic is going to call for Dragon to get started up. They equalize the stacks, but top lane is looking dicey. That's already another tower that's going to fall even before the plating goes down.
Mm-hmm.
That is very, very difficult to deal with.
No,
Dragon does go down to Hypnotic, and there's the depth charge being used to zone away Katsuna. She was nice to us having Knight ticking down on the Ziggs, but is able to stay safe. Bot lane for PCE potentially out to deal with the dive, especially with Featherstorm being down. It's a dicey prospect, but doesn't quite look like they're going to commit for it.
There is some good news here for Cars. Because those double towers are being done, the wave will push into him a lot, which makes it easier for him to farm. Because the minions will be on his side. That does mean, though, that Coney's going to be able to roam a little bit easier. Because he's going to have longer timers.
Lane, Scruff Ninja going forward. Does the kill get traded back? No, Chrono Break saves the Echo's life. Kill goes into Riddy's pocket, and Graves definitely a strong damage threat in his own right. But that being said, like I feel like the thing that is kind of on everyone's mind is, what is this Rengar going to do with this large lead that Coney has gotten for himself? The other lanes are relatively close as far as like state goes. Yora Sincerely does have a very healthy CS lead over Scruff Ninja though, but the big question mark is, as the map opens up, will King Coney, do whatever the heck Rengar wants to do, run people down?
Yeah, he already has a 9% bonus attack damage because of those 3 stacks on him right now, which is pretty important. He does have to get to his targets, and there are some defensive options that their team has. But that being said, once he gets going, he don't stop.
Yeah. So you were talking about, like, with Cars, like one potential upside to having both those towers down, the silver lining, so to speak. That was an interesting use of Satchel. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the tower is low enough that she was nice could have held it. But speaking of which, over the top lane, Cars once again forced away. But yeah, like the thing is that, oh wow, Yours Sincerely does get engaged on. Scruff Ninja able to walk it out. Doesn't quite actually have Chrono Break back yet. But yeah, there should be the tower going down.
Yeah,
So,
can use the W there if they want. Don't have to.
Ninja looking for it, doesn't quite find it. To walk it out, you can also see that Woylan is off in that river brush trying to give support and mid laner. Bit of breathing room. It's like they'll have it. They want to bush cheese, but I don't think that anyone's really going to face check into them here.
Yeah, they're a little bit too strong for that. The one reason why they would do that, be like, okay, I kind of need some vision, and I gotta walk up to get the vision.
Oh,
Ooh.
speaking of dives, though, Katsuna in a very precarious spot. Forced to use the Featherstorm Dredge line, doesn't land, but there, it's collateral damage, and Riddy is able to get another kill for himself on this Graves. Did commit for the Yomu's Ghostblade, but the other thing that we haven't quite talked about is Ziggs' ability to shove down turrets. Being able to execute turrets is huge, and they've answered back both of those top lane turrets with two of their own in bot lane. So, as devastating as things look top, things are looking okay for Hypnotic overall.
Yep, they do have a counter push lane, which is good news for them. I do like that. That being said, that does make things harder for him to push. He has to either go top side, potentially where Coney's been, or go into the mid side with Syndra, who's doing a little bit better than his current laning opponent, Katsuna. Yours sincerely has a little bit more gold on them.
Yeah.
It also
But-
means that like their AD carry might be fighting Echo, which is not great for them as
Katsuna
well.
potentially in a dangerous spot, does get stunned up, and that is a whole ton of damage from Scruff Ninja. The root will go through. The Echo might actually have to pop back. Ends up using the Chrono Break for safety, and I believe that won't be up by the time Infernal spawns.
I thought I almost gave them the caster's curse.
Not quite. Not quite. Honestly, by virtue of that CS deficit, I think Scruff Ninja just kind of misses out on that little bit of damage necessary
That's
to
true.
take Katsuna out. So it's a dividend that pays off quite nicely. But as this dragon is spawning, you can see that King Coney walking his way down, already at that river bush. Doesn't want to give himself away quite yet, though.
That was so much damage into Viper off that 1Q. This is kind of what we're talking about game 2 with some of that poke that your sincerity is doing right now. If they were able to get that off in the previous game, that would have really changed it. But obviously, this is game 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, the other part of it is that Hypnotic Viper has not itemized for a whole lot of MR. Like, yes, he's seen Null Magic Mantle, but that's not a lot in relation to things, especially with how far along your Sincerely's build is. That being said, you can see Katsuna in the top side, right? The Xayah will not be able to join for this dragon, so it might be the call to just let Woyland look for a steal. Might not be, though.
Yeah,
Looks
and
like
Coney
the
can
jungler
potentially flank here as well.
might be
But
looking
this
to
is a
walk
little
away.
late to commit to a dragon.
Yeah. So they
Interesting
don't
thing.
actually get a substantial push off, although Katsuna is able to kind of shore up that farming disadvantage by sitting in top lane, getting a few waves there.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is get Coney to get this nice push into the bot side to counteract the turret deficit that they have there, because they're not going to be able to get into the top side. It's just too dangerous for Katsuna to do that. And Coney can do this a little bit more easily. He has a cleanse built into his kit and can just kill you as well. He's just pretty deadly with the Eclipse right now. He is sitting on 1.5k gold, so he could back to finish something off.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's worth pointing out is that the gold lead hasn't grown substantially in the past couple of minutes, which, if you are Hypnotic, that's a pretty darn good thing. You know, your deficit isn't expanding. I think Hypnotic, they are trying to be as cognizant as possible about where is this Rengar, so they don't commit someone to the wrong lane, or if an objective is spawning, they are properly grouped. Last time it worked out because Xayah, like, okay, well, we see Xayah top lane, which means they're probably not going to commit for a team fight here. But as you were mentioning before, Coney is pretty devastating as this Rengar. Gosh, like, already half healthing Scruff with effectively 3 autos.
Yeah. There's something I was going to mention. I lost my train of thought for a moment. Oh, so there's been a 3,000 gold deficit that we've seen. We've also seen that in the other games, and then it just explodes.
Yeah, Kar's potentially in a rough spot, is able to make his way out, but seeing the Rengar as well as Woyland in the bot lane, it looks like the entirety of Hypnotic is going to commit for a mid lane fight. Kara's getting incredibly low, does get the pop back, but Daisy with their own knockup is going to make sure the Cassante goes down. Flash forward from Hypnotic Viper. They aren't able to finalize any kills. Yours Sincerely gets incredibly low. So does Dim, but they aren't able to seal the deal. And there is the phase dive from Scruff Ninja. The Echo going forward, using the Chrono Break, trying to get out. Can't finalize the kill on the cow.
Yeah, and Katsuna's
See the
not
Rengar
trying to
pushing that
greed
bot lane, though.
for She Was Nice as well. Just needs to clear this wave to prevent anything, and it looks like Woolen's trying to hover around. Mid is seeing a lot of action. The
To be
flash.
had, and that pop back from the satchel does mean Woyland does go down. Katsuna pops the ghost, runs out to safety, but 2 towers were claimed by the Rengar in the bot lane. So King Coney able to just get more gold, global gold. The rest of the team there. Oh,
Yeah, it's about a 5,000 gold difference right now, which means it's expanded right after like, hey, it's been kind of
it's
chill,
kinda
and it's
stalling
like
out a
boom.
little bit. That being said, you can kind of see that. Oh, She Was Nice. Don't. Oh, with the flash bomb out, able to get the kill onto Katsuna. The Zig's not long for the world though. So you actually did see Hypnotic Viper try to channel Hex Flash in order
Oh,
to
that's
block
okay. Yeah, he
Alistair.
tried to
That
hex
didn't
flash
quite work.
Q. I just saw him hex. I'm like, I mean, technically you can get through really thin walls on champions because it prioritizes them first on the lollipop. But that one's a thick boy.
Yeah, you gotta fully charge your Hex Flash if you're gonna land that.
Yeah.
Oh, Hypnotic Viper in an awful spot though, does get stunned up and taken down. So mid lane towers end up actually being in favor of PCE thus far. The mid lane turret's getting lower, but it's not quite in execute range for the Ziggs. Although Scruff Ninja is able to trade it back in top lane, so the tower deficit is let's see, down
It's
to
just
2.
2. Yeah, it's only 2. That's not too bad.
It's not
Oh, which
impossible,
ones are
but
down are important, but
you can see that Cars is trying to pull Coney over to a wall to be able to use All Out effectively, but this time uses All Out, looks potentially for an
Ooh.
escape move, but he walked through a Tri-Brush. Ready is here though, the Graves is quite dangerous, but the Rengar is as well. Collateral damage does not land, and Thrill of the Hunt is popped. The Rengar is angry, the Knife Kitten is there. King Coney will end up getting the kill, but the shutdown goes over to She Was Nice, who had TP'd in. So those are some pretty critical kills. That's a lot of gold going in to Ziggs' pockets.
30 seconds before Dragon, too, so it's a little bit too late for them to necessarily back for this if they want to start right now. But the jungler did die, so they have time to stall things out and get that gold spent.
Yeah, that certainly is the case. She Was Nice. Looks like not going to be able to get the back for the Ziggs. And Hypnotic Viper in a whole awful spot. Huge slew of CC tossed onto the Nautilus there, and that means that Not goes down. TP is available for ultimate cars, so they will have potential of Cassante joining, but King Coney is up, so is Woyland. As far as numbers advantage go, it could go the way of PCE. There's the TP from Rengar. If you're Hypnotic, you have to navigate this fight very carefully.
It could be collapsed on at any moment. There's a lot of range.
He gets called in. There's a headbutt pull. The Dragon goes over to the side of Hypnotic. Bomb gets used. Doesn't find the kill. Woyland getting very, very low, as well as Dim. Rengar running for the hills. On the hunt does get popped, but Rengar, can you find the kill? Yes, that's 1. Ducks into the brush looking for 2. Where's the stun? Is it quite there? No. Riddy forced to run away. She Was Nice does get a massive kill, and the dredge line goes through. Katsuna in a rough spot. Rampage now for the Graves with that final little tick of damage. We're Sincerely trying to run their way out of this, but they're in a very precarious spot. Potentially might be able to trade 1 more kill. It's on to Riddy, but Hypnotic Viper looking for it. Does hit the wall with the dredge line, so is able to pop back. Should be 1 more auto to do it in. And yeah, Riddy does get that kill. And that is a strong team fight win for the side of Hypnotic.
Yeah, it was so close for Yours Sincerely to try and get like 1 more kill there. Wasn't able to quite get it. And because they were able to get that dragon for HG as well. That's very good news for them. It's crawling back towards like a 2,000 gold lead, which is also pretty good news for them. This is when She Was Nice is going to be at their strongest. Ziggs really does feel strongest at this moment. It's going to level off a little bit more compared to Katsuna's build once they get to that third and fourth item.
Yeah.
We are dealing with a lethality Graves, who has 5 kills right now, which is pretty potent versus a 5-kill Rengar. Both can just one-shot you. I am seeing that LDR plus Black Cleaver, so those grit stacks aren't going to be necessarily as impactful if they're the target. But Coney hasn't been able to kill She Was Nice. They've been able to survive.
Ready going forward. Yours sincerely not going to be able to do a thing as the double assassins just run straight into the Syndra. Even burning Yours sincerely's flash. It's a quick kill. Now you can see King Coney did try to find their way onto She Was Nice. The Rengar having to walk out. Dim going headbutt pole into the backline. Katsuna walking forward as well, taking out member after member of Hypnotic. Scruff Ninja and She Was Nice. They're all alone. They are able to kill the Zaya, but at what cost? Ultimate Curse. 1v2, 1v3 counting Daisy though. Woylan doing what he can to make sure the Cassante goes down. Scruff Ninja going in. Time Winder does it find its way back into the Rengar? Doesn't quite look like it. And there is the auto. The double kill, and both jungler and top laner, the side of PCE, they're the ones who are left standing. Or sincerely has respawned TPs in. That should be Baron.
Yeah, that should be Baron.
Planetary Collision Esports.
I will point out, Coney still only has 4 stacks. Doesn't have that 5th one. He's still missing 1 target. I believe it is She Was Nice at this point. But this Baron buff hitting 4 of their team members is going to be pretty nice. They've been able to push things out. Pretty expansive. And the other thing is She Was Nice has been the one really slowing this game down, clearing a lot of the waves, doing a lot of the harass, stopping some champions from getting some gold, mainly Katsuna. With Baron buff, minions are just going to be faster and tankier, which makes their job even harder to do. And they're the one with a lot of AoE. Of course, Ninja and Riddy do have some AoE of their own. But it's going to be on them to get these waves under control, and they can only be in so many places at once. If they try and 1v1, Coney or maybe even Sincerely, it could be pretty difficult for them, especially with the range deficit versus Sincerely, so long as they don't get caught out due to proper vision.
Yeah, and like one thing I do want to call out, Katsuna in that team fight walking forward into the enemy. Oh, wait, Scruff Ninja. Okay, force the burn. Chrono break in order to make sure you don't get one shot by Unleashed Power. But yeah, Katsuna running forward, just having so much pressure, able to push. She Was Nice as well as Riddy, pretty much, or was it Scruff Ninja? It was Scruff Ninja fully away. Even though the Zaya dies, making sure that the Ziggs is not really able to participate in the fight was really, really critical to PCE's success, and was well done. But Dragon spawning. Just under a minute here. This would be Soul for the side of Hypnotic. That'd be a whole ton of damage, but on the hunt getting popped. Scruff Ninja doesn't have ultimate available quite yet, and yeah, that's just a kill.
Yeah. Well, also, okay, so we're up to 6,000 gold lead difference here, which is pretty impactful. Why it's so dangerous for them to go for this. But there's also some XP leads. There's that XP deficit in the top side that's no longer there. The deficit's favoring Coney now.
Makars, I think he's going to get stunned up. This might just be a dead Cassante. Forces the flash, but it doesn't even matter. There's the Unleashed Power.
Can't flash a point and click. Can't flash. Very well executed there. Pretty tight timing. Wolan and his comrade Kitty. Just taking this out. Yep. No Soul today. They still have the Baron buff. This does mean they spent some precious Baron buff time getting an objective rather than getting some towers. They'll still probably be able to get this mid tower, which is going to cram the enemy team on red side into their base, which means they'll be together, but they're going to be at a gold deficit.
Katsuna using Featherstorm, using the... Oh, dear. Using the Featherstorm and Flash to reposition. Does get the root off, but is unable to finalize that kill. Dim... Headbutt Pulve looking for it. I don't think that Ignite's going to take the Graves down.
No.
So yeah, they are able to get those kills. But as you were talking, they are able to use Baron buff quite effectively. Woylan and King Coney, they do crack the base open. They take out the inhibitor. Doesn't look like they can get the Rengar, but they might get the Ivern. And whoa! Scruff Ninja going in. Chrono Break is available, but they can't get either target. So in exchange for getting the bot lane out of the mid lane, Hypnotic loses their bot lane and hit.
And Sincerely's pushing this as well, putting pressure on Riddy. Yeah, very well done on them. I do have to highlight here that Katsuna had like 1.5k gold before they ended up dying, so they were able to get that BF sword, which probably would have been enough to kill Riddy right there. But it's super awkward in that position because you don't want to back, so you have Baron buff, and you kind of want to get that tower. Even though you do have the faster back, you're not going to be able to get some of the utility out of it that you haven't gotten before, other than the gold. And just because how the team was moving as well. Yeah, no, that was pretty funny.
Yours sincerely was like, "You are not getting this red buff."
And it
Freddy
didn't
said,
work.
"Yes, I am."
Uno reverse card. You fell for my
Yeah.
trap card. Oh.
Could you say that's an effective use of Graves Ult? Probably, since it's on a very low cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very cheeky. That being said, though, Hypnotic is still at a pretty notable disadvantage on the hunt, popped by King Coney, and you see the response from Hypnotic pretty much be like, "Everyone run back to base.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be here anymore." That being said, they're committing for a fight. Dim getting quite low, but Scruff Ninja forced to use Chrono Break pretty much instantly in order to stay alive. There is so much damage that is now available to the side of PCE, and you were talking about it before with the EXP leads, with the gold leads. Even a champion that's as safe as Echo will struggle in a situation like this.
Yeah, you can only step back in time if you're still alive. If you get one shot, there's not enough time, and we all know how fast some of these champions can kill you.
Don't believe that's where you want to be. Is going to pop themselves
Ooh.
out of it, but it does end up eating the depth charge, and that is a lot of resources committed. They burn 3 ultimates just to get that shut down. That does go into Riddy's pocket, so the Graves going to get just a bit stronger out of it.
And Hypnotic Viper's Flash is also down. They can only use Hex Flash, which does limit their resources a little bit. Sincerely is able to get some value by pushing the bot side, and it looks like mid's able to get some nice push. Cars has got a nice counter push into the top side to try and get some wave control here. If all of these waves keep crashing in unison, and into them, it makes it pretty hard for them to get vision and sustain that, as we can see into their top jungle. With Baron happening in 10 seconds, any fight could happen. With this gold deficit pushing 5.6k gold, almost into 6, it could be lights out. This might be the last fight we'll see, but it's all about the execution. It's not over until it's over.
Yeah, I mean, getting a kill on King Coney was nice for the side of Hypnotic, but unfortunately they had to deal with waves. They're unable to establish full vision control in the river. So that means King Coney is able to just respawn, get back onto the map, doesn't even have to commit TP for the potential Baron fight. But now that the Baron has spawned, the dragon is once again on the table. And if you are Hypnotic, there is a fair amount of value that you put on both. Perhaps you want to say, okay, let's let them take the dragon so that we can pressure for Baron, but vision control is in that pit for this side of PCE, so they're okay with how things are going. Dredgeline does not find its way onto Yours Sincerely. Does burn the flash from the Syndra, so that's pretty critical. Dragon spawning in 20 seconds now. If you are Hypnotic, you're kind of feeling pressure because you can see the Rengar in that top lane. Double super wave now stacked up in the bot, so you have to pull the trigger on something, or else you're just going to let it all go to waste.
A lot is happening for them to respond to, which makes things difficult. The other thing is we saw them get priority, and the way they had to use their vision was to reconquer their top quadrant of their jungle. They weren't even able to push into the river because it was just too dangerous because of the composition that they're against.
Oh dear, King Coney flies in with Thrill the Hunt, just finalizes the kill on Hypnotic Viper. Not a thing to do in the world for that Nautilus. It's like the rest of Hypnotic, they were hoping to bush cheese the Rengar. Quite happened that way.
How dare you use your own spells against me?
Yeah. I believe that PCE, they're just going to angle for Baron here. They know that they have the pressure in the bot side, or in the bot lane. Just start up the Baron. It has to come down potentially to a Riddy looking for a Smite steal. They have vision in the pit, I believe.
Yeah, but they got so much
he steals it! Riddy flashes in, steals the Baron, but can they get away? Carr is trying to walk his way out of it. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Riddy alive, amazingly enough. Scruff Ninja as well. finds an assassination kill onto King Coney. Will pay for it with their life, but hey, that's critically a Baron going into the favor of Hypnotic. They're able to potentially have that pressure for themselves. Bot lane inhibitor has respawned. She was nice, has the Baron as well as Riddy. Trying to wave clear the mid lane out. Here comes the Graves. Here is the flank, and Katsuna is down. Woylan popped up into the air. Dim, the only one left. I don't think he can walk it out of it. Yeah, absolutely can't. And look at how long these death timers are, Abba. They are pushing down the mid lane.
Astounding. Steal 1 Baron, shame on me. Steal 2 Barons, shame on you. Holy cow. Riddy taking that has really turned the tides here, especially with this ace. They're going to get, what, at least this tower and the inhib. It's 2 seconds for Sincerity to come on. Coney should be able to help with this 2v3 potentially. There is some teleports available from Cars, which can really help push this out as well. And we're seeing another one to the top side. It can only go so many locations.
It's like they want to just let the minions finish off mid lane inhibitor. Thrill the Hunt does get popped for King Coney. The Rengar is searching. The Rengar is looking. The Rengar, is he going to get the kill? Doesn't quite look for it. Yeah, the CC is there. But King Coney is able to get the kill onto She Was Nice. TP was actually expended by Ultimate Cars, but fortunately there's not too much to commit for. Next thing on the table is that dragon up into 2.5 minutes. Whoa!
That was almost
Hypnotic
lethal there.
Viper has to flash out of it, and yeah, that's a lot of summoners getting expended. Riddy, you want to walk your way fully out of this area, my friend.
Yep.
And
Riddy
like that
does
will be the
have
case.
Guardian's Angel, which is going to help potentially keep them nice and safe. They are a large source of the damage, being 10 and 3 with lethality Graves, which will help them out in some of these team fights, especially if Coney gets taken out in the intermittent time from his revival.
So, you know, after all those kills are said and done, right, the gold advantage, such as it is, has pretty much evaporated at this point. There is so much gold on both of these teams that you can argue it doesn't matter a whole lot. That being said, oh, wait. Looks like PCE, they're going to commit. They want to look for a kill onto Ultimate Cars. Sante is quite tanky, but it doesn't look like he's necessarily tanky enough. Does use the all-out, but can't really trade any sort of meaningful damage back. So Mega Inferno Bomb from She Was Nice does get a nice, you know, little bit of chunk onto several members, but it does place Hypnotic at a numbers disadvantage as this dragon will be spawning in about a minute, so Cars will be back, but still. Kind of annoying to be dealing with that. I feel like Cars this entire series has just not had a fun time. Taking a look at the gold is still, you know, well over 4,000 gold behind the Rengar, and yeah, King Coney is done with the build, but that also highlights how far behind Cars is.
It kind of feels like the JoJo Part 5 meme where they're all kicking.
Oh no!
I mean, that's kind of what Cars feels like.
Yeah, you're right.
Cars is a villain in Part 2, so I'm not too far off the mark.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough if you are Cars. It's definitely been getting a bit of that whole Dyrus treatment. I mean, a lot of pressure from the enemy team. That being said, though, oh whoa, King Coney is gonna get spotted out. Riddy almost finding a one-shot. Scruff Ninja forced to expend Chrono Break in order to run away from the CC, run away from the damage. That ability will not be up by the time this final dragon, or this final Infernal Drake spawns. It looks like PCE have control over the river.
Coney's ult is down.
Making their way in.
Severely chunked out. They're just trying to fight for any sort of space they can get here. The vision control, as we can see, every inch is needed.
Absolutely, and it looks like it will be the side. Hypnotic to start up the dragon. It's getting quite low. It's not fully low yet. It does go the way of Hypnotic, though, and the fight has broken out. Oh my goodness, instant kills onto several members. She Was Nice, Hypnotic, Viper, as well as Scruff Ninja taken out. Cars is still alive quite critically. Can't finalize a single kill. And now Riddy running for the hills.
Oh,
Riddy goes down.
GA wasn't enough.
Every single member does end up dying for the side of Hypnotic. They do claim the soul, but at what cost? Fortunately for them, aren't any waves that are currently in the favor
That's
of.
true. It's going to be difficult for them to push out, but Baron's up in 40 seconds, which is right around when their death timers are. Some of them are going to have TP, but they
They
don't have
might
the
just
vision
commit for
for it.
this though. These are long timers. The first one up is Hypnotic Viper in
Mm.
about 10 seconds. Next after that is Scruff Ninja, and it's so late in the game, but they can
Oh,
just
yeah.
fully commit for this. Hypnotic's not even up yet.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
They just
that's the
shoot through these
series.
towers. This is the series.
And Nautilus is up. I don't think they can do anything to stop it. And yeah, oh my goodness. There's just so much damage there, and the fact that every single member of BCE had stayed alive means that they are just able to close this one out. It was a hotly contested series between
Yeah.
both of these teams, but at the end of the day, BCE they come away with it, 2-1.
It was a much longer game at nearly 41 minutes, uh, but definitely worth the watch. We saw gold leads almost get thrown in games 1 and 3. It became deadly close, and then at the end, it just kind of got taken away back up to 6K. Uh, Honestly, I gotta say, Coney kind of MVP did a lot of work in there. Yours sincerely also did pretty well, but Riddy, I think, is really the ace of this all. He was able to get a lot of value in game 3 and really take things over in game 2.
Yeah, and Coney was absolutely nuts in every single game. And yeah, you can argue the first 2 games, oh, Coney has counterpick, but the third one, Coney going for, as I believe some people have mentioned, right, going for the one trick lock in and making it work really, really well, like was such a massive threat at various
Hmm.
points of this game that we talked about it, right? On the hunt, or sorry, not on the hunt. Thrill the hunt gets popped, and the entirety of Hypnotic are like, okay, well now we have to play passive. We have to be careful, and
Yeah.
because of the threat that Rengar generated, it ends up working out incredibly well for PCE. That final fight was just absolutely explosive. Like you,
Hmm.
like several members just dying instantaneously, and yeah, you give up the dragon, but if you give up the fight for drag at this point in the game, it's just not
It's
tenable.
just too late. Yeah. It was basically a budget paranoia, if you will, where he's able to jump onto some targets and they're like, nope,
Yeah,
I don't want to be here. I don't want to die. Sorry.
yeah,
Uh,
that's absolutely true. But I mean, I think you and I are in agreement, though. Coney deserves that whole MVP. The entirety of both teams played well. I think
mhm.
it's just that you get this late into a game, like one final fight will end it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
very well done to both these teams. Obviously, the season is winding down, so I'm excited to see where both of those teams will land for playoffs. But that being said, on behalf of myself and you as well, Abba, as well as everyone here and the Style Esports casting production crew, thank you all for watching. And hopefully, you join us again, either for one more time this week or next week to watch even more amazing games. Thank you all for watching again, and have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good night. Don't forget to follow, hit the bell, subscribe if you want to, so that you don't miss any of the content for the upcoming tournaments that'll be happening once we get into preseason.